This is Atomic Shinobi and today I'm going to narrate second and final part of What If Naruto Was Trained by Nagato. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Always wasting no time, let's start the story.
No, I said Gnome. Then there must be something here that you want for some reason, right? Interrupted Moroku, who said, if you're not here for the secrets of these lands. As Moroku spoke, Gnome opened his mouth to say, and these reason must be very valuable to you, right? Yes, Gnome replied. It was Moroku who said, something you would do anything for. Yes, Gnome replied. Moroku looked at Gnome and said, something you would fight for. As Gnome nods, Moroku utters the words, something you would kill for. After Gnome nods, Moroku utters the words, something that you would lie for. After Gnome nods, Moroku utters the words, something that you would do anything for. After Gnome nods, Moroku utters the words, something that you would die for. Moroku said, even sell your body and soul for. Gnome nodded. Gnome continued to nod and replied, yes. Mirroring the window once more, Moroku said, tell me, Gnome, what is one of the main abilities of a priestess in order to protect herself from danger? According to Gnome, one of the main abilities is the ability to see the future, to warn them about possible death, and if they are fully trained, the future of others. According to Moroku, including their own future, correct? Yes, Gnome replied. Moroku replied, and I'm a priestess like my mother before me, right? Of course you are, Gnome said. With her in Gnome she continued, then tell me something. How is it that you were able to come to these lands and do those things to my mother without her seeing the future and warning the people of this country about your arrival so they could get to safety? Why is it she stayed here instead of leaving to protect herself from you? The room blinked, and Gnome repeatedly opened and closed his mouth before Moroku uttered the words, you are no monster, father, and I have known this entire time who you are. All of the eyes in the room widened as Moroku got up, approached Gnome, embraced him, and said, thank you, father. Shion glanced back and forth between Moroku and Gnome before turning to face Naruto and uttering the words, I'm confused. As she released Gnome and took a few steps back, Moroku chuckled and declared, Morio has been defeated. Naruto said, will someone please tell me what's going on, because I feel like I'm going crazy? After glancing at Gnome, Shion, and Moroku. Moroku laughed and replied, I guess I should explain. My mother told me before I first met you, father, that she knew you were coming to Oni country long before you ever did. She knew and evacuated most of the people of the country. The ones who were not evacuated were in fact people who were spies here looking for the treasures of the demon cults. When you killed all those people who were here, you were actually protecting this country. As for what you did to her, well, you don't think putting up barriers and fighting demons is all the jutsu we have. Mother was also trained as a kunoichi like me, and she was skilled in genjutsu. She placed you in a genjutsu after you killed those spies, making you believe what you were doing was real while you were torturing something that wasn't there. Mother told me it was actually pretty amusing to see you thinking you were having your way with her in the genjutsu when you were the one tied to her bed and she was the one having her way with you. Everyone was taken aback, and Moroku replied, Mother told me that you were a lost soul, a man who had been influenced by the evils of the world, turning you into something you were not. She knew that you would one day be shown the light and change into who you truly were. She also knew that you had to face those you had wronged as well as the consequences of your actions in order for you to be able to live. Gnome, with his eyes down, said in a deadpan voice, sounds like her all right. Then, with a wounded expression on her face, he raised his head and said, but if what you're saying is true, why did she tell me that you would not know me as your father? Why is it that you have spent all these years hiding the truth from me? To protect you as you have been protecting us, father. You see, you have already stated that you would stop at nothing to keep Shion and I safe, Moroku remarked. Anything. For people with dark hearts in particular, this land is a dangerous place. Because you enjoyed the things you did so much as a child, there is still darkness in your heart from that time. You would have been even more protective of me if you had known I knew the truth. The temptation of power that the demon treasures would have presented to you would have been more alluring to you in order for you to spend your life defending me and remaining far enough away to avoid the temptation the treasures would have presented. Mother forewarned me not to tell you that I knew who you were. Well, I have a question, Naruto said. Why are you telling him now if what you're saying is true? I mean. And why didn't you ever tell me he was my grandfather, mother? Shion interrupted Naruto. Taking a deep breath, Moroku remarked, so you wouldn't feel guilty when you had to kill your own grandfather, Shion. Shion went pale and asked, what do you mean, mother? As all the eyes in the room widened. After you respond to my question, I'll respond to that in a minute, Moroku said. Let's see how well you've been learning about Shion and what a demon is. A demon is an evil spirit that escapes from hell seeking retribution for the torment it endured in hell. Shion stated the spirit takes possession of a person, location, or item and uses it to exact its retribution. That's right, said Moroku, as long as they lack a means of communication with our world, demons themselves are helpless. This explains why the Forest of Death is home to so many small demons. In order to help them exact their retribution on the world, the demons there take control of the animals' bodies and start manipulating them. This is also true of the hidden treasures in Oni country. Spirits own those things and trick those who find them into giving them a body so they can exact their retribution. Father has fought the urge to protect us all these years, but he also understands that his time on Earth is coming to an end as Spirit Kid and would use fear to gain access to us, and he has already stated that he would do anything to keep us safe, even if it meant selling his body and soul. Everyone in the room started to understand, and Gnome mentioned, I'm Morio. In order to protect us and to allay your fear of abandoning us, Moroku stated, you would have sold your body to the spirit that found you and tempted you. Then, using your dust element ability, the spirit would have created an army of stone warriors, and I would have had to sacrifice myself to keep the spirit inside your body until it eventually escaped and went after your body again to get its army. At that point, Shion would have either died or, if Naruto had shown up with him, they would have destroyed your body, leaving the spirit lost in the world until it found a new medium to use. However, it appears that Naruto is the decisive factor that will either save or destroy us. He would have saved Shion in the future, but something changed his destiny and caused him to die young, so I had to intervene to change his future once more. Although I am unsure of the future because I have not yet regained my powers, I genuinely believe that now that Naruto has revealed the truth, a truth that neither of us would have discussed before out of fear, perhaps all of our lives could be spared. Now that you know the truth, you might be able to resist the spirits who would have tried to influence you, or you might be willing to fall to their claims even more easily if history repeats itself. Shion and I will find it more difficult to balance the needs of the many with our own. The relationship between the four had developed over the more than 4 months that had passed since the day the truths were revealed, and even though nobody outside the four knew the truth, they could all tell that something had happened because of the smiles and upbeat demeanor that all four of them seemed to exhibit, which gave everyone hope for the future. Although Moroku's ability to see had not returned, she was finding that life was more fun as she noticed that more and more things were different from the futures she had seen and that life was more of an adventure than a responsibility. Shion's relationship with her mother had become closer as both of them realized they were more alike than either of them was willing to acknowledge. As her studies as a priestess progressed, and despite several heated arguments between her and Moroku over Shion's training, a general compromise was reached. Shion would be permitted to train some in order to better protect herself, but she would not accept the training that would force the ability of all sight on her, allowing her to live her life without knowing everything. Naruto was willing to bring up this point in both of their cases in his own way, usually with him getting tagged paired with lumps on his head or one of the girls falling into the courtyard fountains, the koi ponds, or the stream that ran along the back of the castle. The record was 43 feet being thrown by chakra chains. Naruto's life had become wonderful, but his relationship with Moroku and Shion was a source of great confusion for him on multiple occasions. A guard or servant caught him muttering about the evil known as women while banging his head against a hard object, which led to humorous stories about Naruto being told to others. Naruto was frequently spotted training with Gnome, who had become a positive male role model in his life and wasn't a pervert when he wasn't caught in one or both of Moroku's or Shion's traps to mess with his mind. This could be justified by the fact that Gnome was teaching Naruto about how cunning women could be and what they could and would do to win. He also didn't want to hear about too much of Naruto's sex life with either his daughter or granddaughter, which has happened a few times, usually after the girl guilt trips him after he loses his temper and throws them in a body of water, though there hasn't been a time with both at the same time. In addition to learning about the evils of women, Naruto had learned a lot from Gnome and some of the things he had in the scroll from his cousin. He had learned to some extent how to manipulate the elements of wind, earth, water, lightning, and fire, as well as the dust element. He knew at least 2 jutsu for each of the main elements, but Gnome had him focus more on the dust element, even though his skill level was nowhere near that of the other users of that element. Although he had learned a number of jutsu and elemental manipulation techniques, he had not mastered any of them, even though his chakra control had improved thanks to Gnome's exercises, meditation, chakra string, and chakra chain. In order to keep Naruto from burning out, Gnome had persuaded the girls to allow him to go out into the village outside the castle and help the locals with small tasks, make some friends, and learn a few things that he found relaxing or useful. Naruto's blonde hair had grown back, though he had added red streaks to it in memory of his mother. Gnome was able to become more involved in the lives of the other 3 and soon began to view each of them as his children, regardless of whether they were actually children, grandchildren, or, If Shion and or Moroku had anything to say about it, his future son-in-law, he was also the one who assisted Shion in her training as a non-priestess and had Moroku train a little bit. Shion cried into Naruto's chest late at night after waking up from a vision, reminding Naruto that the world doesn't stop because he tries to leave and people are searching for him. With a back pat, Naruto muttered, "Shish, it will be alright Shion, I won't let anything happen to any of you. But I saw everyone die. Grandfather was killed by this hunchback man, mother was killed by this shark-like man with blue skin, and I was being held hostage by this man with a spiral mask. He cut my throat after you were captured. All of them had these black cloaks with red clouds on it," Shion said, gasping for air as she shook her head in his chest and whispered. In an attempt to soothe Shion, Naruto closed his eyes and pondered, "Akatsuki, I guess I have no choice. As long as I am here I am a danger to everyone, but what do I do? I have no choice. I have to go back at least until I can defeat Akatsuki. I won't let any harm come to them. I have fallen in love with them. I feel like I finally have a family. I'll tell them tomorrow." Shion closed his eyes to sleep after Naruto had managed to get him to fall asleep again while he was in his arms. He then gazed out the window at the night sky. When Shion entered the private dining area the following morning with her head lowered, Moroku noticed and inquired, "What's wrong, dear? You appear distressed." When Naruto entered with Gnome carrying 2 plates with breakfast on them, Shion bit her lip as Naruto placed 1 plate in Gnome's place and Gnome placed both in the girl's. Shion remarked, "I had a vision last night." This prevented either from claiming that Naruto loved one more than the other. Naruto approached her, placed a consoling hand on her shoulder, and said, "She had a vision about all of our deaths at the hands of Akatsuki, a group who are after me for the Kyuubi. As long as I'm here all of you are at risk. I love all 3 of you. Gnome, you have become the closest thing I have to a father. Moroku and Gnome's eyes widened. "Stop, don't try to explain why you love us," Moroku said. "We are aware that you do. It's a complicated relationship, but I couldn't ask for a better partner in my life. Although I haven't had a vision about this, I knew this day was coming. I want you to know that I love you and that I know you will do whatever it takes to return to us." She closed her eyes. "You are a special person, Naruto, which is why you are able to love me despite the fact that I am so much older than you and the mother of your other lover." Shion pulled her arms around her and said, "Idiot, you don't say goodbye like this." "Because this isn't goodbye," Naruto said with a sorrowful smile. "You are my family, so I promise to see you all again and return someday to spend more time with you until I can deal with Akatsuki. I will see you later." Gnome replied, "Kid, you told me that your dream is to restore your clan. I know Shion and Moroku can't marry you because of their duties as priestess, but if they could I would give you my blessing to marry them. So if both Shion and Moroku will allow it, I say right now in witness of our family, we are the Uzumaki clan, if not in name, then in heart." Grinning, Moroku remarked, "I like that, Dad." After grinning, Shion remarked, "Me too, grandfather." "Do you hear that, kid? Not in name or law, but in heart. You have 2 wives, Gnome said, glancing at Naruto. "Do you agree with them?" Gazing at Shion and Moroku, Naruto grinned and said, "I do. As the last male of a bloodline clan, you are permitted to have multiple wives." Moroku stated, "I count on you to keep your word. I anticipate that you will have at least one other devoted wife who intends to assist in re-establishing the Uzumaki clan. When you return, Shion can only have a daughter to inherit the priestess role, and I am unable to have any more children." Shion replied, "You have to help me with that when the time comes. You hear me, Baka?" Shion and Moroku burst out laughing as Naruto gave her the thumbs up and grinned, saying, "You can count on me." "I hate this. Shion said." Naruto put his finger on her chin and said, "I know, Shion, I don't like this either, but I think I can understand my parents a little better now, and I don't hate my dad anymore. He did what he had to in order to protect those he loves, just like I am doing what I have to in order to protect you." Moroku stood up, approached Naruto, and planted a kiss on his lips, saying, "Be safe and happy, my love, and know that you are in our hearts." With tears in her eyes, Shion kissed him too, saying, "Stupid powers, I love you, please come back to me, to us." Naruto replied, "I will all come back and hopefully it will be for good, and just because I have to have someone else to continue my clan doesn't mean I'm replacing you, as nobody could replace my little Hellcat or my demon bitch." Moroku replied, "You got that right, to hell with it. I'm taking the day off. We are spending the day together as a family, and tonight Shion and I will both give you a goodbye to remember." The other 3 laughed when Gnome said, "I am not hearing this," while sticking his fingers in his ears. Shion grinned as Gnome took his fingers off of him and said, "Ready to help me make him a great grandfather?" She then turned to face Naruto and gave him a wink. After noticing the checkmark on Gnome's head, Naruto remarked, "Your room or mine?" With a kunai in hand, Gnome uttered the words, "Begone, fall demon, leave the virgin priestess alone." Shion replied, "Virgin, I haven't been one for 2 months. You one, mom." Moroku chuckled and replied, I think we teased him enough, dear. Besides, if it wasn't for me training him in advance, your first time wouldn't have been as enjoyable as it was. Grabbing Naruto by the shoulder, Gnome uttered, evil women, and they say men are perverts. When Shion and Moroku heard Naruto say, you are what you eat, they both flushed and yelled, Naruto. As both women were wiping their noses, Naruto slapped Gnome's hand behind his back and said, what, you both know I love ramen. This made the women blush even more before a small amount of blood escaped from their noses. Naruto had been out of Oni country for 2 weeks. Naruto had given his plan a lot of thought during that period. Ultimately, he ended up in the one location no one would have predicted him to go. The Cage Tower, where he was waiting to meet the Iwa leader. When a group of Iwa ninjas emerged from the Tsuchikage office after Naruto had been waiting for 30 minutes, the secretary gave him a look and remarked, you are going to be waiting forever, kid. The Tsuchikage is a busy man and doesn't have time to see little kids about schoolyard bullies. Schoolyard bullies, huh? That's a good one, lady, but I'm sure if you go in there and tell him the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune is in his lobby thinking about practicing with his demonic chakra from being bored, that he will find time to see me. Naruto grinned as he noticed the woman's face losing color. You're lying, the woman said, attempting to regain her composure. Want to play fox and rabbit, lady? I'll be the fox, Naruto said, lifting his shirt and using some chakra to make the seal appear. After swallowing, the woman stood up and hurried into the Tsuchikage office, saying, just a moment, I'll see if he's available. After a short while, she emerged and retreated from Naruto, saying, he will see you now. After rising and making his way to the Tsuchikage office, Naruto noticed an elderly man sitting behind the desk. He had white hair and a white goatee, and Naruto could tell by the way he was dressed that he was short. The Tsuchikage replied, you have an interesting way of getting my attention, boy. What proof do you have that you're a Jinchuriki? Naruto flashed the seal on his stomach and remarked, aside from the seal on my stomach, nothing. How's the hips? With a blink, the Tsuchikage asked, why are you here? Naruto replied, to repay a debt. You could say my name's Naruto Uzumaki and you were the Sandame Tsuchikage Oanoki, student of Fu, the Nidame Tsuchikage, and one of the only people in the world with the bloodline selection dust element correct. With narrowed eyes, Oanoki questioned, how do you know about that? Naruto replied, you could say we share an element. The person I owe a debt to was the one wondering about you hips. I'm sure you could figure out who I am talking about. After scowling, Oanoki remarked, I see, so he got his hands on you to get his revenge. Snorts Naruto as he says, hardly, he doesn't even know I came here. You mind if I sit down? I have a lot I want to discuss with you and I rather not be standing for the entire time. I'll get right to the point. Have you heard of a group called Akatsuki, or a group of men wearing black cloaks with red clouds on them? Naruto asked, as Oanoki nodded and he walked over to sit in the chair across from the Tsuchikage. Oanoki's face was neutral and said, I'm a busy man and don't have time to worry about minor details like what someone's wearing or what they are calling themselves. Naruto replied, I see. Well, I just thought you should know they're targeting all 9 of the Biju and Their Jinchuriki. They plan to extract the Biju and use them as weapons against villages and nations to force them to become servants under them. The group is made up of several S-rank missing ninja, and while I don't have a name for them, I do have a few descriptions of them. A man who looks like a shark with blue skin, a hunchback-looking man, and a man wearing a spiral mask. I've personally seen the man in the spiral mask the day I was born when he used me as a hostage to get my father to move away from my mother Kushina Uzumaki. The previous Kyuubi Jinchuriki. The man in the mask was able to fight my father and survive, something that should make you very nervous since my father was the man who sealed the Kyuubi in me. You're a Namikaze? Oanoki's eyes widened as he angrily uttered the name. Naruto stated, I'm an Uzumaki, and before you plan to scream about revenge and try to kill me because of my father, think about why would I reveal that to you now. Right now I am here because I see Akatsuki as more of a threat than the threat of you killing me and releasing the Kyuubi. I'm here to warn you so you can protect Han and Roshi, and no, I am not here for any reason related to Konoha. In fact, I'm extremely pissed at that place and the Hokage, and I've thought about joining your village just to piss them off. The main reason I don't is because I want to meet my grandmother Tsunade and my grandfather Jiraiya. You're related to Tsunade and Jiraiya of the Sanins, Oakomi said, narrowing his eyes and biting his lip. Naruto replied, would you like to learn why I am pissed at Konoha and the Hokage? I'm sure you might be able to use it to your advantage. As he retreated, Oakomi remarked, very well, tell me. Naruto said, simple, only 5 people in the world know that I am the grandson of Tsunade and Jiraiya of the Sanin. Hiruzen Sarutobi, our mutual friend, me, and 2 others who found out at the same time as our mutual friend. Tsunade never even knew she was pregnant because she had got injured during the war and went into a coma, and your counterpart had her baby taken from her body while she was in a coma and never told her because he wanted the Kyuubi to stay in Konoha. That also means Jiraiya doesn't know about me. Hell, only a handful of people know I'm the Yondaime son. I only found out because of someone who is trying to kill me. I'm related to 3 of the 4 Kages of Konoha, 2 of the 3 Sanins, and I lived my life as an orphan with most of the village hating me because of the Kyuubi. I can't even buy food or cloths in Konoha unless it is at a higher price and outdated or kill me. Orange, my education was even sabotaged by people who wanted me to be weak so I could get killed on a mission. Owakomi's eyes widened a little as Naruto said, I'm Naruto Uzumaki. My goals are to find any living family I have left in the world, learn from them, and restore my clan and pass on the teachings of my family. Like it, hate it, accept it, or piss on it, I don't care. He then moved his hands together quickly, and then the top of the Tsuchikage tower was covered in smoke, and for a few hundred yards around it, most of the village looked up, alarmed. As the smoke cleared, hundreds of Naruto were standing in the air, filling the Tsuchikage office, and they all said, I came in peace to warn you about a common enemy, and I am leaving in peace. Rule well, Tsuchikage, and may your village prosper, and may any future meetings we have together be as peaceful. Also sorry about scaring the shit out of your secretary. She deserves a raise and a paid vacation for all the shit she deals with from people wanting to see you. See ya. Then, everyone was shocked as all the Naruto started to fly off into the distance in all directions. 3 miles away from Iwa, a woman in her mid-20s with red hair was sitting on a wagon on her way out of town. She grinned a little and thought, dust release, got to love it. Too bad I'm not good enough to fly everywhere yet. The elderly man sitting next to her said, enjoying the ride. The woman with the red hair said, I thank you again for giving me this ride. I was scared of traveling all the way to tea country by myself. I know you're only going to grass country, but I will find my own way after we get to the border. No, it's okay Kushina, we like having your company, an older woman said. Kushina grinned and remarked, no, the pleasure is all mine. You're a real lifesaver really. Owakomi was back in the Tsuchikage office, looking out the window at the retreating Narutos. As a few ninja entered his office, he thought, you are an interesting young man. Perhaps I might be able to get you to join Iwa someday. As he handed a scroll to one of the rock ninja, he wrote, I'm fine Rock. I want 10 teams to head out and begin searching for Han and Roshi and bring them back to Iwa. Inform them we have information and enemy plans to target them for their Biju, and I want to inform them about this enemy at all costs. Also send a message this information to all our allies and put them in the bingo book. I want everyone from academy student to cage to know that info. Go. After taking the scroll, one of the rock members departed in a cloud of smoke. A week later, Jiraiya was sitting in a brothel with 2 girls next to him when one of them smirked as she got up and walked away after slipping 2 pieces of paper into his shirt. 5 minutes later, Jiraiya went to his hotel room, took out the 2 pages, and read them. Akatsuki's rank threat level. A mercenary group was sought for their plans to seize every Biju and use them to conquer the entire planet. An explanation has red clouds on their black cloaks. The only member as of right now Hoshigaki Kisame. Itachi Uchiha Deidara Kakazu members who are unknown. A stooped figure dressed similarly to the other members. A man dressed similarly to the other members but donning a spiral mask since he managed to defeat the Yondaime Hokage and live long enough to capture Kushina Uzumaki and take the Kyuubi from her to use against Konoha. This member, whose identity is unknown, should be avoided at all costs. Akatsuki is composed of missing S-rank ninja. After blinking and glancing at the symbol in the corner of the poster, Jiraiya thought, I wonder what Akatsuki did to piss old Rockhead off so much, and what does he mean by this guy being the one to release the Kyuubi? She also noticed the symbol for Iwa. After that, Jiraiya turned to the following page and read, Army of One, also known as Naruto Uzumaki SS Ninja rank. 3rd Kyuubi no Kitsune Jinchuriki, son of Kushina Uzumaki, the 2nd Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune, and Minato Namikaze, Yondaime Hokage of Konoha. Tsunade Senju and Jiraiya of the Sanin's grandson. Nidame Hokage's great-great-nephew and Shodem Hokage's great-great-grandson. Recognized skills capable of producing more than 500 kg bun shin simultaneously. Capable of flying using the dust element. As he looked at the paper, Jiraiya thought, someone is going to die. I think it's time I visit Konoha and speak with Sensei about my godson. The paper fell from his hand. 4 days after leaving Iwa, we discovered Naruto sitting in a Kumo cafe, hanged as his mother Kushina once more, thinking, Mom, you're still protecting me, may your soul rest in peace in heaven. Sitting in front of the Raikage's secretary, another Naruto Kage Bunshin reflected, I can't act like I did in Iwa. According to the secretary, The Raikage will see you now. Thank you, Naruto said as he stood up and made his way to the Raikage office. A dark-skinned man with blonde hair on the side of his head and a blonde goatee was standing in the Raikage office when Naruto arrived. He was wearing a cage coat and pants, and his muscles were clearly defined. Naruto replied, "Thank you for seeing me, Raikage-sama. I am Naruto Uzumaki." As the Raikage opened his mouth to speak, a dark-skinned man carrying multiple swords entered his office. He said, "Hey bro, Eido's telling me there's another here like me besides Ni. Who are ye Bunshin he?" His gaze fell on the cage Bunshin. With a frown, the Raikage remarked, "You're a Bunshin." Naruto replied, "Cage Bunshin actually can't blame me for being cautious since your village did try to kidnap my mother when she was younger." "Are you the other Jinchuriki my brother here is talking about?" asked the Raikage. Remembering what he had said, Naruto turned to face the man brandishing the swords and asked, "Who are you?" Swords declared, "I float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. I'm the Jinchuriki of the Hachibi. I'm Kira B, the killer bee." As Naruto put it, "I see, Naruto Uzumaki, Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi." At that moment, the office doors opened, and Kushina and a woman with brown hair entered. "What are you doing here, Yugito, and who is this?" asked the Raikage. Yugito replied, "Forgive me, Asama Nibi claims this woman is a Jinchuriki, so I detained her and brought her here." Note: although I am aware that the Raikage's name is A, I am changing it to A to avoid confusion with the alphabet letter. "Are you sure, Ni?" A asked, glancing between Naruto and the red-haired woman. B replied, "She is bro." Eido said the same thing. When Kushina realized there was no way out, he dispelled the cage Bunshin and saw Naruto covered in smoke. Everyone's eyes widened a little, and Yugito remarked, "You a man?" In an attempt to joke, Naruto said, "Last time I had sex I was." A replied, "Enough with the tricks, boy. Tell me why I shouldn't have you arrested for coming into my village and trying to trick me." Pointing a thumb at Yugito and B, Naruto stated, "I came to warn you about a threat to you, or more specifically those like us." A replied, "And why should we believe you?" Naruto replied, "Get the new Iwa bingo book. The Tsuchikage already put me in his bingo book along with the threat I speak about. He even added information that I didn't have. The threat is a group of S-rank missing nin called Akatsuki who plan to capture each of the Jinchuriki and extract the Biju from them, killing the host and then using the Biju to force the nations of the world to follow their orders or be destroyed. I've got Iwa bingo book in a scroll on me, if you don't mind me unsealing it so you can read what he put in it." After giving B and Ni a quick glance and nodding slowly, Naruto took a scroll out of his coat pocket, opened the bingo book and said, "Page 24 and 26. "How do you know the dust element?" A asked, his eyes widening as he started reading the bingo book. Everyone was shocked when Naruto said, "I'm screwing the Nidame Tsuchikage granddaughter," in a bored tone. A replied, "I didn't know the Nidame Tsuchikage had a granddaughter." Naruto replied, 5 minutes ago. I bet you didn't know the Yondaime Hokage had a son either, did you?" "You're the Yondaime son," Ni said. B replied, "You must have balls of steel to make Iwa girls squeal." A replied, "I didn't know the Nidame Tsuchikage even had children, come to think of it." Naruto replied, "As far as I know he has 3 sons, Han and Roshi, the Jinchurikis of the Yonbi and Gobi, and then the father of one of my lovers." "Why are you here?" A asked, nodding. "You must be here for a reason, Konoha nin." "I am not a Konoha ninja," Naruto scowled. "Originally from Whirlpool, I am Naruto Uzumaki, a member of the Uzumaki clan. My friend is my enemy, which is why I am here. Akatsuki is pursuing all of us, Jinchuriki. They will need to target us when we are not in our villages in order to accomplish their goal, because anyone who would target Suna, Iwa, and Kumo must be even more insane than they already seem. Although I don't know much about Akatsuki, I believe that by warning every nation I am aware of that has a Jinchuriki, I can make it more difficult for Akatsuki to target us in the process of defending us. You will need to learn more about our shared adversary." Yugito replied, "So you're informing us so you can protect yourself from them?" Naruto remarked, "Akatsuki cannot move freely because their members and clothing are now recognized. Only 4 members are known to exist: Kisame Hoshigaki, Deidara of Iwa, Kakazu, and Uchiha Itachi. I am aware that there are at least 3 additional members." As the other three's eyes widened, I added, "I also know they have a spy network set up in each of the villages with Jinchuriki in them. Or at least in Konoha." A questioned, "Are you sure?" "That is one of the reasons I am no longer in Konoha," Naruto remarked, "because my dear old dad chose to be honorable and save their asses after Akatsuki released the Kyuubi on Konoha in the first place. How can I become strong enough to defend myself from Akatsuki when I'm being spied on and the people in my home village view me as the Kyuubi itself and attempt to weaken or kill me?" A replied, "How can you be sure about that? After a near-death experience, I saw my first memories," Naruto said, "in order to abduct my mother, the second Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi in Konoha, and my great-great-grandmother, Mito Uzumaki Senju, wife of the Shodem Hokage, the first Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi in Konoha. I witnessed an Akatsuki member use me as a hostage to separate my father from my mother shortly after I was born." "Do you know your clan history?" B inquired. Everyone in the room took notice of this, and Naruto remarked, "Some of it? Why?" A replied, "Why would you ask him that? B? Ato wants to know." B said, "Share your knowledge of your clan's past with us." With narrowed eyes, Naruto uttered the words, "Why should I?" "You said it yourself. My friend is my enemy's enemy." B said, "You will need to trust us if you want us to trust you." After scowling and surveying the room, Naruto remarked, "All right, but you must realize that I can't fully trust my source, so some of what I say may be incorrect. Deal?" The Uzumaki clan was the greatest sealmaster in the world at the time and had all 9 Biju until Madara Uchiha abducted Mito Uzumaki, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, to gain an advantage over Hashirama. B nods, and Naruto responds, "Well, I know about the 6 realms sage creating the Biju, and I was told he tasked the Uzumaki clan with trying to kill the Biju. I am aware that the special chakra bloodline of the Uzumaki clan is 10 times more powerful than regular chakra. In order to put an end to the first shinobi war, the Uzumaki clan gave the remaining 8 Biju to Hashirama, who then distributed them to other countries. I am aware of some personal history regarding my clan following the destruction of Whirlpool, but that is all." As he listened to Hachibi, B nodded his head and remarked, "Some of what you said is correct, but some of it is wrong." According to Hachibi, the Uzumaki clan was selected to guard the Biju who had been summoned in the first place. Before Madara, there were multiple attempts by others to seize the Biju for their own authority. The Uzumaki clan sealed the Biju away into 9 Uzumaki children after the 2 brothers, Ginkaku and Kinkaku, tried to gain some of the Kyuubi's powers by eating the Kyuubi from the inside out. This betrayed the Biju's trust by denying them their freedom. Then, as you say, the Biju were turned into weapons when the Uzumaki Jinchuriki were given to other villages in an effort to bring about peace. Ni and I have both earned the trust and respect of our Biju, B said as Naruto's eyes widened. You will too, if you are to develop the strength to protect yourself from this danger. "Why are you willing to tell me about my clan and give me advice?" asked Naruto, scowling. A replied, "I want to know that as well. The little man here didn't have to come here and tell us what he did," B said, turning to face A. "He could have stopped one of our ninjas on a mission and told them, or he could have sent a bingo book with the page marked for you to read. He deliberately allowed himself to be caught in order to inform us of this threat, coming all the way here." Ni responded, "Wait, what do you mean he let himself get caught?" B replied, "He's been here for 3 days finding out what he could about us and found out your favorite restaurant to eat at so you could bring him in here." As Naruto put it, "And why would I do that? Easy, to divert our attention long enough for the real you to deliver the message and then leave the village." B said, "Look in your left pocket." He punched Naruto, sending him flying into the air, saying, "Now we are even." "B, what are you doing?" yelled A, returning the favor. "Bro," B said, "Ato and I both told you to leave the child alone. I'm going to get some Z's now, if you don't mind. Be kind, cat," he said as he turned to leave the room. "What should we do, sir?" asked Yugito. "Hachibi and B know something we don't see. If Nibi knows other than that, start training Yugito," A said with a frown. "All of your missions outside of the village have been cancelled until further notice while I get more information about this Akatsuki." When Yugito noticed the glare A was giving her, she said, "But very well." When the memories of the cage Bunshin struck Naruto, he looked in his left pocket and saw the words, "Come to the mountains west of the city if you want to learn how to use Kyuubi. I'll be like a water fountain at the top of the lake you find in the middle of the mountains." B. Jiraiya, who had considered how Minato might be his biological son, had some extremely unsettling, at least to him, realizations while Naruto was ascending the mountains west of Kumo. As a result of those insights, his plan to travel to Konoha to seek answers had evolved to fit his current circumstances. "Why are you here, pervert?" Tsunade asked, frowning as she glanced at Jiraiya across the table. "I'm here to get answers, Tsunade, and I want the honest truth." "I already know the truth, but I want to hear it from you," Jiraiya said gravely as he glanced at Shizune, whom he had placed next to Tsunade, who had been sitting across from him at first. He then turned back to Tsunade and took out an Iwa bingo book, opened it, and held it where only he could see it. He moved swiftly and shocked Tsunade and Shizune by holding a kunai at Shizune's throat, saying, "If you lie to me with what I am about to ask you, then I'll fucking cut Shizune's throat in front of you before I kill you." "What are you doing, Jiraiya?" hissed Tsunade. "Let her go." You blonde bitch, shut up and listen to me. Jiraiya said you're not close enough or quick enough to stop me, so I'll fucking do it. I'll only ask this once, so you had better respond right away or I risk tiring out and accidentally killing her. Are you paying attention? After Nawaki was killed, I remember going to a bar where you had been drinking heavily. I took you out of there and brought you back to my place to let you sleep it off sometime in the middle of the night. I remember something happening between you and me. I remember waking up the next morning and you were gone, but when I asked you about it, you called me a pervert and said it was all a dream, Jiraiya said. As Tsunade scowled and nodded slowly. You do recall what I'm discussing, correct? Jiraiya put down the book he was holding in one hand and said, then explain how he has in their bingo book proof that it wasn't a dream. Tsunade scowled and nodded slowly. Tsunade looked down at the book and started reading. Her eyes widened, and she said, in a startled tone, that's not possible. I remember you got hurt and went into a coma about 4 months after that night. Jiraiya remarked. He was around the right age when you spent 6 months in the Konoha hospital. I would like to know if you knew you were expecting my child and deliberately kept it a secret from me for all these years. I swear on everything, Jiraiya, I didn't know why we slept together, Tsunade said, meeting Jiraiya's eyes. Admittedly, Jiraiya, I was unaware that I was pregnant. I make a vow to everyone and everything that was important to me. Thank you for being honest with me and not betraying my trust, Jiraiya said after being silent for a while. The only way this could have happened and you were unaware of it is if Sensei took him from you while you were still in your coma and concealed him. If you had been a knowing partner in this, I would have killed you and Shizune. I'm sorry, Shizune. But I have to leave now. My grandson is in danger, so I need to find him. If you want to know what danger he faces, turn the page and read about Akatsuki. Otherwise, you can do whatever you want. Goodbye, he said, hushed. With the kunai gone, Shizune exhaled and noticed that Tsunade had turned the page and started reading. She scowled, turned to face Shizune, and remarked, Shizune, you know my feelings for your uncle are true, right? After Shizune nods, Tsunade remarked, you also know that you have been like a daughter to me. Tsunade gave Shizune the bingo book and let her start reading. After Shizune nodded, I have a request for you, she said. I'm pleading with you about everything that you mean to me and everything that I mean to you. After hearing what Tsunade had to say to her, Shizune questioned, what do you need of me, Tsunade-sama? I want you to bring this book to Konoha and show it to the Sandaime. I'm going to catch up with Jiraiya and help him find my grandson, Tsunade said. Tell him that Jiraiya and I are going to search for Naruto and that once we locate him, we will head back to Konoha, where you will have one chance to explain his actions before I murder him and anyone else who tries to stop me. After that, I want you to avoid making the same error that I did. I would like you to stop following me around and start living your own life. Don't let anything take your children away from you. I want you to become a mother to them in my capacity as your friend, sensei, master, superior, mother figure, mother to a daughter, and everything else I am to you. I am making this request. Please complete this final task for me. Shocked, Shizune exclaimed, but, no, listen to me, Shizune, Tsunade said, slamming her fist into the table and shattering it. I will spend the rest of my life evading assailants, not debt collectors. After I track him down and murder that man, my head is wanted by real ninjas. Shizune, that is not your life. She got up, leaned down, and kissed Shizune on the forehead before saying, goodbye. Shizune's eyes widened before she sagged against the table. Don't let me be your downfall. After picking up Shizune and putting her on a bed in their hotel room, Tsunade gave her a final, heartbroken smile before placing the bingo book on the nightstand and leaving. Jiraiya was leaning against a tree when she emerged outside the village gates, and he remarked, I had a feeling you would follow me. Cut the bullshit, Jiraiya, Tsunade said. Are you aware of his whereabouts? I have some guesses, Jiraiya stated to alert the Jinchuriki about the Akatsuki. He is hunting the Biju himself. Since he was added to the Iwa bingo book on the same day as Akatsuki, it follows that he is the one who discovered our relationship with him. This implies that he is aware of them and is evading them. I wager that the hunchback figure on the list is Akasuna no Sasori. Orochimaru was once one of them and Sasori's partner. We can either locate Orochimaru to ask him questions or try to find the Jinchuriki in an attempt to apprehend him. Both carry some risk. Which would you prefer? Do you have any idea where the Jinchuriki or Orochimaru is? Tsunade asked with a frown. Jiraiya stated, Suna has one and Kumo has two. Since Iwa has already visited, we can cross them off. I believe Kumo will go where it is most dangerous for him to go because he tried to kidnap his mother and openly told Iwa that he was his father's son. As for Orochimaru, he's currently hiding, so I have no idea where he is. I also don't know where the other three Biju are. After that, Tsunade said, then Kumo it is. Then Jiraiya, I'm sorry. Jiraiya replied, don't. All I care about right now is finding him and correcting the mistake I made all these years related to him. Tsunade inquired, what mistake? I was a fool to trust that man, Jiraiya said, Glancing at her, I trusted Sensei to protect him in Konoha while I protected him and Konoha from outside threats. I'm supposed to be his godfather. Instead of taking him with me, I abandoned him there, where he was despised by the people he rescued. Tsunade turned and began to approach Kumo, closing her eyes as she said, "That man has a lot to answer for, Jiraiya, but let's not stand here feeling guilty about ourselves. It doesn't do anything but make you feel worse, trust me." As he swiftly caught up to her, they both took off, and Jiraiya thought, "That's the understatement of the year from the poster child for feeling sorry for yourself." Alongside Naruto, after discovering that the lake was encircled by mountains, Naruto started to ascend a flight of stairs that led from the lake. Upon reaching the summit, he noticed what appeared to be a temple or shrine carved into a cave, and he asked himself, "Is this the place?" The voice of a man asked, "What kept you? Do you know how many mountains are west of Kumo?" Naruto asked, glancing at the entrance where B emerged sporting sunglasses. According to B, there are 245 mountains that are more than 700 feet high. Approximately 550 hills are lower than the minimum mountain height requirement of 700 feet. Naruto simply stared, blinked repeatedly, and collapsed in the manner of an anime. "That was a rhetorical question," he said after he had recovered. B laughed and replied, "If you don't want someone to answer, don't ask anyways. Do you know why I offered to train you to use the Kyuubi power?" "No," said Naruto with a frown, "I actually thought this might be a trap." B replied, "And yet you came here yourself instead of sending a cage Bunshin." Naruto replied, "You seem to know how to detect the real so easily. It wouldn't have made a difference except wasting both our time. How did you get that in my pocket?" B got up and said, "You should know my brother is not happy with you, and I had to put my neck on the line for you in order to keep him from having half of Kumo chase you down and bring you back in chains." "Why did you do that for me?" inquired Naruto. "The Hachibi attacked Kumo after it escaped its last Jinchuriki, just like Kyuubi," B said, "because you were a lot like how I used to be. It caused a great deal of damage and death when I was a young boy with still developing coils. I was selected to be its next host. Many people detested me because of Hachibi. In fact, my best friend before I had Hachibi once attempted to kill me because Hachibi had killed his father. I understand how you feel. I experienced it myself. Most Jinchuriki do. On that particular day, my friend attempted to kill me. I had the option of killing him or hurting him, but for a split second, I put myself in his position. I pondered whether I would have wanted retribution if I had been the one who lost my family to the Hachibi. A boy in Suna who is the Ichibi's Jinchuriki went through something similar to me. He is viewed as a monster because of the choice he made that day, while I am viewed as a hero because of the choice I made. I don't know you or your background other than what you revealed in the office, but I can see the expression in your eyes and know what you are concealing. The dark side of you. You will have to confront the Kyuubi chakra if you ever want to learn how to control it. If you're ready, I can help you do that, but you'll have to live with the decision you make for the rest of your life. You will either turn into a monster like him or a hero like me. You have a choice. Am I prepared to face the Kyuubi? Am I strong enough to face Kyuubi? I'll do it, Naruto thought. I'll defeat Kyuubi, he declared. B observed Naruto as he stood there and believed. You are a fool, kid. You think the darkness I am talking about is the Kyuubi. You will soon see the error of your ways and either accept it or be consumed by it. It's your choice, but I will not let you live if you are consumed by your darkness. There are enough monsters in the world. He replied. Very well. Come with me. It will take us about 2 days to get where we need to in order to do this. Naruto nods, and they both hastily depart after 2 days, in Kumo. A narrowed his eyes and asked, why are 2 of Konoha Sanins here in my village? As Tsunade and Jiraiya entered the Raikage office. Jiraiya replied, we're not here representing Konoha. We are here looking for our grandson. We think he might be on his way here. So his claims are true, A said with a hopeful tone. Tsunade said, he's here. Where is he? Can we see him please? After giving her a quick glance, A remarked, he was here. He left a couple of days ago after telling me some things. Was it about Akatsuki? Asked Jiraiya. Perhaps, A said. Jiraiya responded, look, I don't know if you have seen Iwa's newest bingo book, but they have some info about Akatsuki that I can tell you is right. I can't verify all of the info, but I do know that they are trying to find all the Jinchuriki and the Biju for some reason. I also know the hunchback figure Iwa Menshin was Akasuna no Sasori. Orochimaru was also a member and partner to Sasori until recently when his attempt to gain the Sharingan from Itachi failed and he fled. I'm willing to give you all information I discover on Akatsuki in the future if you can help us find our grandson. A raised his arms and said, tell me why I should believe you or trust you. I mean, the supposed son of the Yondaime Hokage walks into my office telling me some story, and then a few days later 2 of the legendary Sanins show up looking for Their's supposed grandson also telling me some story. What reason should I listen to either of you? Tsunade felt tears in her eyes and she sat down in the chair and said, "Please. We just found out about him. I didn't even know I was ever pregnant or had a son or grandson until a few days ago. I don't know how much you know about me, but after my brother was killed by Iwa Nins during the Second War, I started drinking and I slept with the pervert here. I was so embarrassed I lost my virginity to him. I lied about us sleeping together and I stayed away from alcohol and decided to get revenge on Iwa by killing as many of them as I could. I got injured in battle and fell into a coma for 6 months. After we saw the Iwa bingo book, we believe that the Sandame took the baby from me while I was in the coma. Nobody knew that I slept with Jiraiya except me, and I never told a soul, and Jiraiya just thought it was one of his perverted fantasies for Minato to be born in the right time frame. From the time I slept with Jiraiya, the info the Iwa bingo book said has to be true. We know for 100% sure that Naruto is the son of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki. I can also verify that Kushina Uzumaki was the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. According to A, like your grandmother Mito. Tensing up, Tsunade questioned, "How do you know that?" A noticed that Tsunade was trembling and Uzumaki let it slip. It seems that his near-death experience has caused him to get very good at gathering secrets, especially when he seduces Kunoichi. Tsunade said, "He what?" as Jiraiya's and Tsunade's eyes widened. A laughed and replied, "I asked him how he could do the dust element. He told me he was fucking the Nidame Tsuchikage granddaughter offhandedly. He also offhandedly made a comment about the last time he had sex, which makes it sound like he gets around. From what I can tell by his comment about how his life in Konoha was and his comments here that since Konoha tried to weaken him so he would be killed easier, or to kill him, he started to seduce Kunoichi in order for them to give him help to get stronger, and he has gotten good enough that he can seduce any Kunoichi out of not only clan secrets but village secrets as well, which could explain how he knows things that apparent neither of you do." Gazing at Tsunade, Jiraiya remarked, "It's possible he was the dead last of his class at the academy." A choked up as he said, "Him. The dead last? Now I know for sure Konoha was screwing him over. The boy is good at infiltration. He was able to sneak into Kumo and spy on us long enough to allow himself to be caught in order to come before me with a cage bun shin that he had disguised as a red hair woman. Before that he had sent another cage bun shin to see me right before he would be captured and brought before me, so when he dispelled the male cage bun shin and changed back from his female disguise to his regular looks, we would lower our defenses enough to allow the real him to escape, though he had help pulling that off." A remarked, "I don't know where he is right now, and I can see you both are being somewhat truthful, so I am willing to make a deal with you," as Jiraiya and Tsunade grinned slightly. Jiraiya inquired, "What kind of deal?" A replied, "Any information you find on Akatsuki you will send to Kumo immediately. I will do the same with you. I want 1/4 of all cells from your last book. I also want an arranged marriage between your grandson and a Kunoichi of Kumo. In return for those 2 things I will let you speak with the person who helped him to escape, who is also the only person who might have an idea where he was going. My brother, the Jinchuriki of the Hachibi." "You're trying to get him to join Kumo," Tsunade said with a frown. A replied, "That would be nice, but from what I discovered he's the last Uzumaki, so that means he falls into the Clan Restoration Act. Kumo could benefit from having the Uzumaki bloodline from any child him and the Kunoichi has in." Yugito Ni was standing there panting when the office door suddenly flew open, and A asked, "What is the meaning of this Ni?" According to Yugito, "It's B sir, he's gone." Then A cried out, "What, where is he?" A accepted a scroll that Yugito held out and read it. "Hey bro, sorry, but I have to leave. My flow won't be good if I stay here. How am I going to jive when a spy is present? I will refrain from rapping until that sap is found. Additionally, place a cap on in his trap, therefore, he cannot use his yap to communicate with Akatsuki. In order to clear a few hurdles, I'm going to train. You ought to be aware of my training location. It's located on the..." I apologize for the blank, however, anyone could discover this before it's too late. I'll use this rhyme to conceal my intentions. It's getting late, though. Additionally, I have places to go and I've set up a time. I will return in a month. You intend to give me a lot of punks in order to take that team. Until you see me, I am a killer BPS should someone come in search of Uzumaki. Tell them to leave and send them away. Perhaps they're trying to find him for Akatsuki. Furthermore, I won't reveal his location even to his family or you. I can't be made by anyone." A sighed as he read this and replied, "Damn it B," while staring at the Sanin couple in front of him, and replied, My brother has decided to take a training trip to a secret location in order to prepare for Akatsuki since Uzumaki warned us Akatsuki having spies in all the villages with Jinchurikis. He said he will be back in a month. If you accept my deal I will allow you to meet him then in my presence about what he knows about Uzumaki. You will have to leave though until then because I do not trust you. Jiraiya said, we will head to Suna and speak with the Kazekage and see if he has been there yet as well as give him all the info on Akatsuki we have. Just as Tsunade was about to respond. According to A, Uzumaki told me there was at least 3 other members that he was aware of in Akatsuki that were not listed. He doesn't know who they are though. Jiraiya replied, at this time I am still willing to trade any information you discover about Akatsuki in the future. A replied, very well but you will not be able to speak with my brother unless you agree to my terms. Then Jiraiya nods and places his hands on Tsunade's shoulder, saying, come on, we're closer than we were before, at least we know where he's been, and we can work on figuring where to next. Tsunade stood up and turned to leave with Jiraiya, saying, thank you for the help. I want you to head to the academy and pick up these 3 and take them to Turtle Island. B is there when he is not training himself or you then he is to be training his genin team. I expect you all to have improved when you return in 1 month. Go. A asked Yugito as he swiftly wrote in a scroll after both had left. Yugito swiftly departed after taking the scroll. Once she was gone, A wrote, Bolt, on another scroll. He handed one of the scrolls to a group of Bolt members as they arrived, saying, I want that put in our bingo book and sent to all of our allies. Go. There were 2 new entries in the Kumo bingo book that afternoon. Akatsuki's rank threat level a mercenary group was sought for their plans to seize every Biju and use them to conquer the entire planet. An explanation has red clouds on their black cloaks. The only member as of right now Hoshigaki Kisame. Itachi Uchiha Deidara Kakazu Sasori no Akasuna. A former participant Orochimaru members who are unknown. A man dressed similarly to the other members but donning a spiral mask since he managed to defeat the Yondaime Hokage and live long enough to capture Kushina Uzumaki and take the Kyuubi from her to use against Konoha. This member, whose identity is unknown, should be avoided at all costs. Akatsuki is composed of missing S-rank ninja. Army of 1, also known as Naruto Uzumaki SS ninja rank. 3rd Kyuubi no Kitsune Jinchuriki, son of Kushina Uzumaki, the 2nd Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune, and Minato Namikaze, Yondaime Hokage of Konoha. Tsunade Senju and Jiraiya of the Sanin's grandson. Nidame Hokage's great-great-nephew and Shodem Hokage's great-great-grandson. Recognized skills capable of producing more than 500 Kage Bun Shin simultaneously. Capable of flying using the dust element, expert in infiltration who can disguise himself as any man or woman by using a shape-shifting advance henge. A master of seduction who can obtain clan and village secrets by wooing women or kunoichi. Tsunade and Jiraiya had been out of Kumo for 3 days. Naruto and B traveled to the training site during that period. While the real them traveled, Naruto taught B the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu on the way there, and B taught Naruto how to train his clones to use lightning chakra. Who would have thought something like this was possible? Naruto asked, whistling slowly as he gazed at the island on the giant turtle's back. B stated, it's amazing what can be accomplished over time. Naruto replied, you know, that's something I wanted to ask. Why is it sometimes you rap and other times you are calm and talk normal? As they were walking through the woods, B looked at Naruto and said, truthfully. B noticed that Naruto was nodding. Rapping is a stress reliever for me as well as a joke between me and Hachibi. I come up with the worst raps I can in order to see how much I can irritate someone, and it comes in handy in battle also because it causes my enemies to underestimate me and think that I am not playing with a full deck. Anything can be used as an advantage if you know how to use it. Don't tell anyone though, it would really ruin my fun. After giving it some thought, Naruto remarked, I think I can understand that. Well, this is the first step, kid. What you have to do is face your darkness. Just stand here and look into the waterfall and be ready. B said, pausing at the edge of the waterfall as they reached a small lagoon that was fed by a waterfall, before turning to leave. Hey, said Naruto, where are you going? B replied, this is something I can't help you with. Everyone has to face their darkness on their own good luck. As he watched B leave, Naruto scowled and turned to face the waterfall, asking himself, what am I to do? Act like an idiot and ignore everything like usual, a voice said from behind the waterfall. A figure emerged from the waterfall and said, what, you're actually going to look at me and not ignore me? Miracles do happen. I guess there's a first time for everything. Naruto blinked, and then his eyes widened. Naruto exclaimed, what the who are you? It said, I'm you. According to Naruto, I don't remember making a Kage Bunshin. The figure replied, I'm not a cage bunshin, I'm everything you pushed away to ignore what was really going on around you so that you could live in your imaginary world. I'm you. I'm your darkness, your anger, your hatred, and so much more. With a step back, Naruto uttered the words, "What? That's not possible." Yami, also known as Dark Naruto, said, "There you go again, just ignoring the truth again so you could live in your dream world, quite lying to yourself. I am you." "No, you're not," said Naruto. Yami charged at Naruto and started to punch him, but Naruto retaliated, saying, "You're right, you're not me, I'm everything you are not. We're two sides of the same coin, and guess what? Your time is up and it's time for me to be on top and to show the world my face." After that, Naruto threw a knee, but it was blocked. Yami and Naruto soon engaged in a full-fledged battle, with neither side winning because they were evenly matched. 9 shadows manifested themselves in a half-circle at the same moment that Naruto and Yami started fighting. There were red clouds on the black cloaks of all the shadows. These were Akatsuki's members. Pain replied, "This had better be important to summon us here without my permission. Now which of you called this meeting and why?" Kakazu replied, "I called this meeting because earlier today I was attacked by a bounty hunter." With a shark-like voice, the man said, "So what? Your competition is trying to get rid of you. Why call us?" Kakazu replied, "Be silent, Kisame, and listen before you speak again. After all, you are one of the targets on the Mons list like I was." According to Kisame, "So what?" Pain was screaming, "Enough, both of you now get to why you have called us." Kakazu, "Because I am losing my patience." Kakazu stated, "Akatsuki has been put in the bingo book in both Iwa and Kumo, and they know we are after the Jinchuriki and know most of our members." This caused all of the eyes in the room to widen, and Pain, who was equally shocked, exclaimed, "Explain now. How the hell did they know about us is what I want to know," Hidan said after Kakazu finished reading the entry from a Kumo bingo book. Kisame frowned and remarked, "I wonder how they know most of us." Pain concluded, "This is not good, we have yet to make a move and most of our pieces have been displayed to the world already." "I think I know how they found out," Kakazu said, observing that everyone was upset about the recent development and that some members were giving the others suspicious looks. "I have received reports that Jiraiya and Tsunade of the Sanins were both seen leaving Kumo a few days ago heading towards Suna. I have checked with a few of my spies and they had informed me that both Iwa and Kumo had put 2 entries in their bingo books the same day, one about us and the other was about the grandson of Tsunade and Jiraiya, who also is the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune." Conan looked at Pain, who said, "Read the Jinchuriki's information." He kept his expression neutral as everyone's eyes widened once more. Everyone fell silent as Kakazu finished reading the Naruto page, and Pain asked, "Zetsu, how long has the Kyuubi been away from Konoha?" Zetsu replied, "I don't know, since he hadn't graduated by the time we had our last meeting. I had assumed he would still be trying to graduate, so I focused on the ones we didn't know. Can't believe Konoha would let Their Jinchuriki leave the village like this, especially to let him be trained by the Tsuchikage." Deidre replied, "I can't believe the old man would teach him the dust release, especially with how much he hated the Yondaime Hokage. I didn't think he would teach anyone how to use it." Itachi inquired, "Does the Tsuchikage have a daughter or granddaughter he might have taught it to?" "Why?" Deidre asked. Itachi stated, "Uzumaki was listed as a seduction master. He may have seduced her to get her to give him the scroll on how to do it or taught it to him herself if she knew how to do it." Deidre paused for a moment and replied, "It's possible but unlikely. Her father was killed by the Yondaime and she has an extreme hate for anything that could even remotely be linked to him. She hates all blondes, anyone with blue eyes, all Konoha nins, everyone from Fire Country. I can't see her being seduced by him. I think it was that fucking crazy guy we have running around, that underling in the spiral mask. I mean, they got him listed in there and he's not even a real member. I bet he was the one who told, probably bragging, trying to live off our titla, when he disappeared from the projection. Toby a good boy." Toby stopped all of Deidre Senpai mouths from talking bad about Toby permanently. "Does Toby need to close anyone else's mouth?" said a figure wearing a spiral mask as the projection resumed a short while later. Before anyone could get over Thea's shock, Pain said, "I don't think that will be necessary, Toby. I had planned to make you a member after we recovered Orochimaru ring, but since you have killed Deidre you are now Sasori partner. Now I do not believe it was an active member that revealed this to the world. I believe it was Orochimaru. Jiraiya's spy network has been following Orochimaru movement for years. When he joined our organization he must have brought Jiraiya's attention to us, and with his own grandson a Jinchuriki I can imagine he would do whatever it takes to protect him. We must be careful and not reveal ourselves too soon to the world. Zetsu, keep continuing your mission to find out everything you can on the Jinchurikis and the Biju and see what the villages are planning to do with them. Odds are they will try and put them under lock and key. If we can make it appear we are not what they have been informed about, then we can have them doubt Jiraiya words later. When we do start moving, do not do anything that will draw more attention to us, those of you who are not listed yet, or to try and keep from being listed any way you can. Sasori, I want you and Toby to try and find out what Orochimaru is up to and find out if he is responsible for this. If so, eliminate him. That is all. Dismissed. After cancelling the projection jutsu, Akasuna no Sasori found himself staring at Deidre's burned body with Toby standing over it. He said in an obnoxious tone, "Toby, a good boy. Toby, follow Sasori-sama. Lead. What are you orders, Sasori-sama?" Sasori was thinking. "I think I actually prefer Deidre," she replied. "Come, we must contact my spies. How did you get here so quickly?" As he started to follow Sasori, Toby remarked, "Toby, a very good boy." Sasori replied, "So is there any truth to the fact you fought the Yondaime Hokage and are responsible for the Kyuubi attack? Hey, get off my back." With a copy of Icha Icha Paradise in his hand, Toby laid Sasori on his back and remarked, You say something." Kakashi sneezed in Konoha, thinking, "Someone just stole my copyrights." After attempting to stab Toby and having his tail protrude from his body, Sasori returned with a scowl and uttered the words, "I hate you." According to Toby, why hate Toby? Toby is a good boy. After releasing his tail and beginning to walk once more, Sasori muttered to himself, "Get off my back." Toby replied, "Why make Toby walk? Toby want to ride like Sasori-sama is." While Toby had a chuckle in his eye, Sasori thought, "How does he know that I'm inside my puppet? How much do you know about me and how?" He continued to walk without saying anything. Shizune shifted uneasily as she entered the Hokage office in Konoha while Toby and Sasori were traveling together. When Hiruzen Sarutobi, the Sandaime Hokage, said, "Hello Shizune, it's good to see you again after all these years. It's been what, 15 years? As Shizune put it, something like that, Hokage-sama. Looking at Shizune, Hiruzen remarked, "So what brings you back to Konoha? Is Tsunade with you? Nothing has happened to her, has it?" Shuffling, Shizune uttered, "Tsunade-sama sent me here to deliver a message while she left with Jiraiya-sama." Hiruzen replied, "Oh well, what is the message?" and pondered, why would Tsunade leave Shizune to go somewhere with Jiraiya? Did they get together? Shizune responded, This is a message from Tsunade-sama. I am only relaying it, so please don't be angry at me, please." "You don't have to worry, Shizune. I won't be upset with whatever you need to tell me," Hiruzen said with a frown. "Tsunade-sama said she is going with Jiraiya-sama to find Naruto," Shizune said, swallowing. Shizune went on, she said once they find him they're coming back to Konoha. Hiruzen's eyes widened at that, his body tensed, and he thought, Jiraiya must have asked for her help to find Naruto. He must have found out he's missing. Good. Hiruzen relaxed a little. Shizune responded, "Once we return you will have one chance to explain everything before she kills you for taking her son from her." "Oh shit. How does she know?" "Shit, that means Jiraiya probably knows also. I'm fucked. Damn you, Minato. Why didn't you let me do the sealing instead of me? That way I would have been protected by the Shinigami from Tsunade's wrath." Hiruzen's face went completely white at this point, and his throat became suddenly dry. As she opened the bingo book and held it up to Hiruzen, Shizune remarked, "She asked me to show you this also." "How the hell does Iwa know about this? Damn it. I thought I was the only person living who knew about that. Is this why Naruto left? Did someone tell him? Shit, wait. Why did Owakomi teach Naruto dust release?" Hiruzen thought as he started reading the book. "Pardon me, Hokage-sama, but I have an urgent message from Kumo," a Chunin who had just entered the Hokage office said. With a frown, Hiruzen accepted the scroll from the Chunin and opened it in the hopes that it would give him some time to consider his options regarding the current circumstance. Unfortunately, he discovered his hopes were unmet as he started reading. "Hi, Hokage-san, in order to prevent you from believing that I am acting hostilely against you or your village, I just wanted to let you know about the current circumstances. Naruto Uzumaki, a young man, paid me a visit recently. A few days after his visit, his grandparents, Tsunade and Jiraiya, also paid me a visit. Both appear open to starting talks with my village in order to assist them in finding their grandson. I've added what I know about him to our bingo book to help with this, so if any of my ninja happen to come across him, they can bring him here to help bring him and his grandparents together. I've added my entry to the bingo book about him, but I won't be able to free him as easily as the Tsuchikage did if he does what he did in Iwa. Sleeping with my kunoichi to find out my village secrets could be construed as an act of war. Fortunately for us, he isn't actually connected to your village, and based on his speech, He has no intention of doing so. I may be persuaded to allow him to join Kumo. We did attempt to enlist his mother. We might have had a better chance of recruiting her if we had known that she was a Jinchuriki at the time, similar to the Shodem's wife. Greetings. Hokage-san Abii Kumo's Raikage. After reading what Kumo had written in their entry, Hiruzen became even paler than Orochimaru and thought, I'm dead. When he noticed Shizune standing there, he asked, is there anything else? Shizune responded, until Tsunade-sama returns I would like to stay here in Konoha, perhaps work at the hospital. Hiruzen responded, very well, I will have an Anbu take you to one of our guest houses. Please go to the hospital tomorrow at 8 a.m. and ask for the director of the hospital. I'll arrange for him to get you worked in. Shizune bowed and hurried away, saying, thank you Hokage-sama. Following her departure, Hiruzen paused to reflect before saying, Anbu, assemble the council in 1 hour, everyone is to be there. Following the departure of the Anbu, he wondered, how do I handle this without being killed or giving the village to Danzo? That's it. Sorry old friend, it looks like it's time for you to take one for the team. An hour had passed since Sandaime Hokage of Konoha, Hiruzen Sarutobi, sent Anbu to inform every council member that a meeting was scheduled. He had been making plans at the time about how to handle the current circumstance while still being able to live and maintain his manhood intact. Hiruzen entered the council chambers bearing these thoughts. Hamaru said, why have you called this meeting, Hokage-sama? I am not aware of anything that could require the full council attention on such short notice. His former teammates and current advisors looked at each other as he sat down, asking, what are you up to, Hiruzen? You got that look in your eye? Hiruzen replied, as you all know, over half a year ago, Naruto Uzumaki disappeared. The Sandaime Hokage was interrupted by a civilian who said, and good riddance. Looking at his former teammates, Hiruzen glared at the civilian and declared, I will say this once and only once, the next person who interrupts me in any way, including a belch, fart, gasp, or grunt, will be sent to Ibiki and Anko for interrogation for possible treason regardless of your clan or council status. That includes both of you elders. Everyone gasped at this point, and a civilian remarked, you can't do that. Hiruzen was saying, Anbu, take council member Ikido to Ibiki and have both him and Anko interrogate him for possible treason against Konoha. After they are done with him, lock him up in the maximum security prison for the next 30 days on only bread and water rations. Anyone else want to join him? After the Anbu had left, his response was silence. Hiruzen continued, good, now I am sure you are wondering why I have done this and why I am not taking any shit from you today. The answer is we have a huge crisis on our hand. A crisis so big that it could cost the total destruction of Konoha as well as the death of every single man, woman, and child in the village. A crisis that I believe was created by someone in Konoha and most likely someone in this very room. A few council members became anxious as they started looking around. Hiruzen continued, now I will tell you about this crisis. As I was saying earlier, several months ago Naruto Uzumaki disappeared. The only information we had on his disappearance is he was seen by a genin in another town the same day he was discovered missing from the hospital. The genin reported Naruto was upset, evasive and agitated to the point where Naruto used Kage Bunshin against the genin in an attempt to escape. When Inoichi held up his hand, Hiruzen said, go ahead, Inoichi. Inoichi replied, are you sure it was Kage Bunshin, and if so, how did he learn it? Hiruzen stated, based on the description of them being solid and go up in smoke when they take a hit, I believe that it is the only possibility. As for how he learned it, I believe it was either a traitor or an enemy spy who has infiltrated Konoha, considering the evidence shows that not only Iwa but also Kumo knows exactly what he is but also knows who he is exactly, and it appears that the Tsuchikage has already tried to get Naruto to join Iwa by teaching him one of Iwa's greatest secrets, the dust element. Hearing this, Danzo winced and his eyes widened. He then raised his hand to see that Inoichi had been given the opportunity to speak, and after obtaining permission, he said, I don't believe you. How can you be sure the Tsuchikage did that? Hiruzen stated, because he's been placed in Iwa Bingo Book with an SS ranking due to the fact the Tsuchikage does not want to make an enemy out of him. He was placed in there after he left Iwa and went to Kumo, where it appears that he seduced several women there and was able to get them to give him village secrets and clan secrets. The Raikage is also in the race to recruit Naruto now based on the scroll he sent me. After being granted permission to speak, a civilian said, so what, why should we care what Kumo or Iwa do? Who needs him? It seems like I have no choice but to reveal everything for you all to understand the complete situation. Hiruzen sighed after noticing that a number of people were nodding. What do you mean? Kaharu asked. I'll let your slip up slide, but next time ask for permission. As for what I mean, back during the Second Great Shinobi War, Tsunade Senju became pregnant with a child, Hiruzen said, glaring at Kaharu, making his former teammate wince. You are council members, you are to be strong and silent until you have all the info, then you are to give me your advice. You are my advisors, not my boss, now be silent, Hiruzen said as several people's eyes widened and they started talking to one another. The room was white, and Danzo thought, even I'm not ambitious enough to say anything with him in this kind of mood. When Hiruzen saw the response, he began to laugh inwardly and thought, that's right, fall for my plan. Once the shocked looks left everyone's face, Hiruzen said, now as I was saying. Tsunade became pregnant. It was less than a year after her brother was killed by Iwa Nins. Now the thing is, Tsunade was injured and went in a coma before she gave birth. She was brought back to Konoha by Jiraiya and was in the coma for nearly 6 months. With Tsunade being the last true Senju, I had kept the information about her being pregnant on a strict S-class need-to-know basis. Only those I had working on her knew. Now the problem is when she was getting close to the time she was due to deliver, I received word from a doctor at the hospital that there was complications with Tsunade condition and Tsunade had lost the child. Because of the fact she had lost her brother earlier in the year, I was afraid that she would become depressed or possible suicidal if she discovered she was pregnant and had a miscarriage, as I believed at the time, so I had all records destroyed and all who knew of it sworn to secrecy. After being given permission to speak, Danzo raised his hand and asked, what does this have to do with the Nine-Tails child? Hiruzen continued, you know, blonde hair has never been a very popular color in Konoha. In fact, Tsunade blonde hair came from her mother, who was the twin sister of Inoichi grandfather, so everyone with blonde hair in Konoha all came from the same sources. Turns out Tsunade's son had blonde hair, although he had his father hairstyle, but her grandson has the same hair as his father. Can anyone guess what that means? Shikaku responded, you don't mean that Naruto Uzumaki is the son of Minato Namikaze, who was the son of Tsunade Senju and Jiraiya of the Sannin Dayu? Hiruzen stated, until today I did not know about Minato being Tsunade and Jiraiya's son, since I believed the child had died all those years ago, and at the time I didn't know who the father of the child was. Earlier today I found out from Tsunade's assistant, who Tsunade sent back to Konoha, that this was not the case. Tsunade was informed by Jiraiya, whose spy network learned about Naruto and their relations to him from Iwa and Kumo bingo book. Every eye in the room went wide as they heard this, and Hiruzen said, I believe that all of this was done with the intentions of making it where someone would have legally been able to get their hands on the Senju bloodline by adopting Minato, but for some reason the plan was prevented or stopped. However, that brings us to the current situation. I do not know who it was that was involved in this plot to gain the Senju bloodline, but the problem is that either that someone is still alive till this day, or that someone has told an ally who is using that information against us. Whoever it is that knew this information has deeply infiltrated our most heavily guarded secret information and has used the knowledge gained from it against us, to the point where another village may be able to recruit both Tsunade and Jiraiya, as well as possibly the son of Minato Namikaze, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, last male descendant of the Shodem Hokage, the only descendant who can continue the Senju clan, as well as last member of the Uzumaki clan of the now destroyed Whirlpool country. There was no way to control the shock and surprise that the room felt. Even though there had been earlier warnings about talking or acting out, some people found it hard to believe they had missed the similarities for all these years, while others were in denial because of their hatred. Hiruzen Sarutobi observed from a distance as the council members became agitated. Not until he summoned a group of Anbu with their swords out did everyone stop. After everyone had settled down, Hiruzen said, now I don't care how much you want to deny what I just said, it won't change the fact that it is true. I did not know who Minato parents were, but I did know who Naruto's parents were. I had hid Naruto parents all these years in fear that his father's enemies would try to kill him or start a war with Konoha, something we could not afford to happen after the Kyuubi attack, as well as other events. Now the problem is that both Iwa and Kumo are aware of who Naruto really is, as well as what he contains. When Shikaku held up his hand, Hiruzen replied, yes, Shikaku. Shikaku inquired, why would they put him down if they were trying to recruit him, as you say? Hiruzen replied, good question. The answer is because they are trying to block Konoha from having a chance to get him back. Think about it, the Tsuchikage taught Naruto how to do the dust release. This would be considered one of Iwa's greatest secrets, but if we take Naruto back now, then they could claim that Konoha had sent Naruto as a spy into Their village to steal Their's secrets. The same could be said for Kumo, so we can't take Naruto back without looking like we are trying to start a war. With the message I got from the Raikage has told me that he plans to try and recruit Naruto at any cost, and Jiraiya and Tsunade from his letter appear are willing to join any village that has Naruto in it. Someone from the general public said, they won't do that, will they? Anbu knocked the man unconscious, and Hiruzen responded, thank you Anbu, take him away. I have no problem answering questions as long as you request permission to speak and I grant you it. Now to answer his question, Tsunade has sent her apprentice back to Konoha with a message. Once her and Jiraiya find their grandson, they're coming back to Konoha. When they arrive, they will kill anyone who gets in their way of getting their revenge on the person or persons responsible for this. That is why I have called you all here today. Konoha has made several mistakes when it comes to Naruto. I do not know how we are going to do it, but we need to try and get him to feel Konoha is his home, that we can offer him something other villages can't, as well as make it seem that Naruto was not acting on behalf of Konoha when he went to Kumo and Iwa. We also have to find the person or persons responsible for this situation we currently are in so we can hand them over to Tsunade and Jiraiya. A civilian raised her hand to ask, why are you trying to get him to come back? I mean, so what if we lose Tsunade and Jiraiya? They're well past their prime and probably have nothing to offer us. We have lived all these years without them. They contribute nothing to Konoha now, so why are you willing to do whatever it takes to bring the boy back? Because the people are happy that he is gone, regardless of who his family is or was. Everybody with ninja experience in the room asked themselves, why the hell do we have civilians on the council of a ninja village? Hiruzen said, for your information, in the event of my death, Tsunade and Jiraiya are the top 2 candidates for the position of Hokage. Both have 2 of the strongest summons in the world, one of which aided the Yondaime Hokage in battle against the Kyuubi. Tsunade is the greatest medic ninja in the world who, even though she hasn't healed another person since she left Konoha that I am aware of, still has the ability to walk on any battlefield, defeat nearly any enemy she faces and heal most of her allies who are wounded without batting an eyelash. Tsunade also has super strength that should she chose to, she can kick the ground and cause an earthquake from the front gates all the way to this tower and damage or destroy everything between there and here. Jiraiya is the greatest spymaster in the entire world who has spies in every country and has protected this village from outside threats so well that most people don't even realize we have an average of 200 attempts to destroy our village by enemies every year that he basically single-handedly stops before it can come to fruition. His knowledge of seals is only surpassed by his son Minato and is the only known person in the world who can claim the title of sage. Hiruzen let those words sink in a moment and said, lastly, there is Naruto himself. If you actually read Iwa and Kumo Bingo Book, you would know he can create an army of clones all with the same skills as him. The dust element that he knows could give him the edge he needs to counter or surpass his grandmother's super strength, as well as who knows what other skills he has acquired while away. That is just the ninja side of why we need him. Then you have to think about the Kyuubi. Naruto is a blood member of the Senju clan. His ancestor was able to suppress the Kyuubi chakra while also defeating Madara Uchiha at the same time. While Tsunade and Minato may not have activated that bloodline, doesn't mean they didn't carry it, and with the Kyuubi inside of Naruto, his bloodline could be active already. Then there is the Uzumaki bloodline as well, which is called special chakra. It's called this because it is 10x stronger than normal chakra, which means his normal chakra could be even stronger than the Kyuubi chakra, and someday him or his children may even surpass the Kyuubi in chakra capacity. Then there is the fact that he might also have the Yamanaka bloodline, which could even make it where he could either control the Kyuubi mind or be completely resistant to the Kyuubi influence. With permission, Inoichi raised his hand and asked, is it possible that Naruto might have all 3 bloodlines? Hiruzen continued, it's possible, or it's even possible all 3 could merge together and create a new, even more powerful bloodline that will make him or his descendants able to do something that no one else has ever been able to do: successfully destroy a Biju, a bloodline that would allow him to suppress a Biju chakra, control its mind, and restrain its body until the Biju is dead. The room fell silent as everyone, including the Anbu, sat in disbelief. I think you are all starting to understand exactly how much Konoha has screwed up by dishonoring the Yondaime's final request to see Naruto as the hero he is, Hiruzen said, pulling out his pipe and lighting it. Yes, Falcon. Hiruzen responded as an Anbu held up his hand. Falcon replied, Sir, since you knew whose son he was, why did you not send out search teams for him? Everyone turned to the Sandaime, who was silent a moment and said, because truthfully, with everything Konoha has done to Naruto over the years, I felt that he was about ready to snap. In Suna, the Yondaime Kazekage sealed the Ichibi no Shukaku in his youngest son and pushed him so much until he snapped. As of the last time I was updated on his situation, the boy has already killed over 250 people, some of which were assassins who were hired to kill him, and he has never once been injured by any attack. The Ichibi is the weakest of the Biju. I thought that a little time outside of Konoha, away from the glares, the whispers, the hate, and everything else that our village has put him through, would let him relax and keep from becoming the very thing the people kept treating him as. Everyone has a breaking point. I was afraid that he may have reached his, and he would either become a monster who takes pleasure out of hurting and killing others, or he would release the Kyuubi to get his revenge on us. The silence returned and Hiruzen lit his pipe and stated, We can't think about feeling sorry for our actions right now. We need to worry about the current situation. You also need to think about this. What would our clients and allies think if the son of our greatest hero were to side with another village than us, especially with villages that we are not allied with? When they find out how his life was here, it would cost us a great deal of respect, business, and clients, where other villages would get stronger and richer while we get weaker and poorer, and that's not even counting the Fire Lord's reaction to the shame we would be bringing him. That is why we need to get Naruto back to Konoha. The civilian who had asked the question about why they should want him frowned as she heard this, and Hiruzen said, "Now I hope there won't be any more idiotic questions. Now that you all have heard the current situation, I am ordering each of you to start your own investigation as to who might have had a hand in this, while also working on ways to make Konoha more welcoming toward Naruto and his grandparents. If any of you come up with anything on either cases, I want you to come to me with the evidence, even if it is against other members of the council. Out of everyone here, I am the only one who you can be sure about with my involvement in this. I was simply a sensei who tried to look after the health and well-being of his student, who happened to have been the only remaining family of both my senseis. I admit to hiding the fact Tsunade was pregnant and had a miscarriage, but that is all I was involved in. You were all dismissed." As he stood up and started to leave while thinking, "Suckers." As the other members started to depart, Inoichi remained seated, and Shikaku asked, "What are you thinking about, Inoichi?" Inoichi continued, "You know that Ino has had a little hero worship for Naruto since he disappeared, maybe even a little crush. Don't get me wrong, she's still a fangirl for Sasuke, but not as much as she was if what the Sandame said is true. Tsunade would be my second cousin, and Ino's third cousin Naruto would be Ino's fifth cousin." Shuza continued, "So, what about it? They are far enough apart that they can't really be considered family. Look at the Hyuga clan. What is it? Third cousin Shikaku." As he passed by, Hiyashi Hyuga remarked, "Fourth actually." Inoichi remarked sarcastically, "Great, so what's up, Hiyashi? Does any of what just happened seem off to you?" Hiyashi asked, taking a quick look around. "Everything was off. This is a huge clusterfuck," Shikaku remarked. Hiyashi responded, "I agree, but I can't help but feel there is more going on than what we were told. I would like to ask if one of you by chance acquires an Iwa or Kumo bingo book to let me have a look at it." According to Shuza, worried that somehow this could be all Kumo needs to get their hands on your bloodline. Hiyashi replied, "Yes, I already lost my brother, I do not want to lose anyone else." Inoichi replied, "We will keep our ears and eyes open for you if you wouldn't mind returning the favor." Hiyashi responds with a nod. "So what are you worried about Uzumaki and your daughter? I thought you were one of his more vocal supporters over the years." Inoichi replied, "I was and still am. I'm more worried about the fallout from the idiots in the village toward Ino when they hear that we're related to him, even distantly. Luckily I can say that we are far enough apart we aren't family." Shikaku stated, "I think that the Sandame did that on purpose. Actually I think he's more involved than what he claims." Hiyashi responded, "Yes, though it could be just him trying to keep his personal feelings out of his professional feelings. He does treat Naruto almost like a grandson. If that is all, I must return to my clan. Good day." When he turned to leave, "Come on, I need a drink," Shuza said, lightly grabbing Shikaku's and Inoichi's arms before dragging them both out, as Inoichi considered how to keep Ino safe in case Shikaku thought, "I wonder." In the meantime, Turtle Island Naruto's body was covered in cuts and bruises, and he was panting. Yami, who was standing across from him, had cuts and bruises all over him and was in similar condition to Naruto. Yami said as she was panting, "Just give it up already and let me win. You and me both know that you're nothing more than the world's bitch. You let everyone have a turn to ride your ass and never do anything about it but smile back at them like a whore." Glaring at Yami, Naruto uttered the words, "Just shut up, I am not the world's bitch." Yami grumbles and says, "Please, let's take a look at your life. First you let Konoha ride your ass over and over again, regardless of what they do to you. You just smile, laugh, joke, and act like nothing's wrong. Next we have our dear mother and father, the man and woman who sacrificed us for the greater good. Don't make me sick. You actually forgave them. He could have took her and got medical treatment to save her life. He could have took you and ran, but no, he had to go and save those ungrateful bastards." Naruto stated, "Mom and Dad did what they had to in order to save lives, especially mine. If they would have ran, they most likely would have died along with me. At least they made sure I would live." Yami laughed and replied, "You didn't say anything about the villagers though, but let's talk about someone else to prove my point. Let's talk about the Sandame Hokage. The man who is most likely the man who is most responsible for the pain and suffering in our lives. Even after everything you found out he did, you still see him as the man who took you out for ramen and told you stories instead of the monster he is." Yami began to say something as well. Let's not forget them, the ones who actually opened your eyes and proved to you that no one in this world truly cares for you. They showed you that everyone only sees you as a tool to give them what they want, and then they will get rid of you. Isn't it convenient that as soon as you did what they wanted you to, they had a vision of so-called danger to protect you? Hell, I bet you they're both pregnant and only wanted you for your bloodline. Yami smirked, sidestepped Naruto at the last second, and drove a kunai into Naruto's heart as he screamed in anger and charged at him. Naruto's eyes widened, and Yami exclaimed, "I win?" Then, Yami vanished with the kunai, and Naruto dropped to his knees before the red chakra started to drain from him. Glaring at Kira B, Yugito-ni said, "I don't think I heard you right. Did you say that you brought that gender-confused ass here Kumo most secretive location?" "Yeep," B replied, yelled Yugito, "You idiot. Yo, I float like a butterfly and strike with a knee. Let me guess, I'm your new sensei." Kira B said, glancing at the three teenagers who had come with Yugito. With her arms folded, Yugito pointed to a girl with red hair and dark skin, saying, "Yes, this is your new genin team, this is Kurai." B nodded as he looked at her, and Yugito pointed to a girl with blonde hair and bluish-green eyes, saying, "This is Samui and that is Omoi." Yugito pointed to a man with dark skin and white hair. The three teenagers immediately bowed to B and said, "Hello sensei." Both B and Yugito tensed at that moment as a familiar feeling enveloped the area. They both turned to face the waterfall of truth, where they could feel demonic chakra and ki being released. The three new genins all froze as the pressure from the ki and chakra increased, and Kurabi commanded, "Yugito, get these three to safety. I'll take care of him," he said as he started in the direction he sensed Naruto was. B saw a four-tailed Kyuubi with a black face, red chakra covering its body, and white eyes and a white mouth when he got to the waterfall. Looks like his darkness was stronger than his light. Ado, I'm going to need your help, B thought with a frown. A few moments later, B was covered in chakra. The mini Kyuubi growled and went on all fours as he noticed B starting to change, then he charged at B. Naruto was in a water-flooded sewer-like area when the battle between B and Kyuubi started, floating above the water in a cocoon of red chakra. His eyes glossed over, seeing but not seeing what was happening or where he was, while the cocoon of chakra was being pulled toward the cage where the Kyuubi was staring with a smug expression on his face. As he stood up, he thought, "He's tougher than he looks." B and the mini Kyuubi were sent flying by a chakra arm from the Kyuubi paw and landed several hundred yards away. It appears that we will need to attend stage 2 of Hachibi. A roar and an explosion were heard before Hachibi could react, and the miniature Kyuubi was seen soaring through the air not far from B's position. With Yugito in her full Nibi stage standing where the mini Kyuubi had been in a crater where Kyuubi had been, B thought, that was Nibi menacing ball attack. "Finally I will have my freedom." Kyuubi smirked as he opened his jaws to eat the cocoon as it passed through the bars inside Naruto's mindscape. He closed his mouth around the cocoon and swallowed it whole, causing the cage's seal to burst into flames and the cage to open wide. When the miniature Kyuubi snarled at Nibi outside in the real world, he started to grow until a fifth tail appeared, followed shortly after by a sixth, which made both Kumo Jinchuriki wide-eyed. B immediately switched to full beast mode as the seventh tail started to take shape and bones started to appear around the Kyuubi's head, spine, and arms. Kyuubi opened his mouth, and a white chakra beam started to form before shooting out of it, flying at Nibi, who leapt into the air to avoid the blow. The Kyuubi was still firing, though, and the beam raised its head up, hitting Nibi in midair and sending her flying backwards and away. When Hachibi noticed that Kyuubi was attempting to use its death beam to track Nibi, it used its tentacles to grab the Kyuubi's body and close its mouth. As the ninth tail started to form, flesh started to appear around the Kyuubi's body. "Shit," thought B inside Hachibi, "this isn't good. Hachibi, we need to use that attack and use it now." Holding onto the Kyuubi, Hachibi gives B a mental nod and starts to gather chakra in its mouth before firing a Biju death beam out of it at point blank. When they arrived, Yugito and Nibi, both in full release Nibi mode, saw this scene. Nibi approached Hachibi after completing his attack and asked, "Is it over?" As the smoke cleared and the battered and bloody-looking Kyuubi emerged in a crater, appearing severely injured but healing quickly, Nibi responded with a pain-filled roar. "This isn't good. I used most of my chakra in that last attack." Hachibi scowled. "Could you perform a menacing ball again?" Nibi replied, "Yes, though I will have to return to the seal. The kitten's body won't be able to handle any more of my chakra after that." Hachibi replied, "Then let's both use the last of our chakra together and hope it will be enough to destroy Kyuubi once and for all." The Kyuubi continued to attempt to rise from its position on its side, still recuperating from Hachibi's previous attack, while Nibi nods, and they both started to gather chakra for a menacing ball. Both Kumo Biju nodded and hurled their ominous balls at the Kyuubi, which was engulfed in dazzling light. Dust was seen covering everything as the light faded, and Yugito, who had removed the Nibi chakra from her body, was panting and asked, "Did we get him?" Her response was a tail emerging from dust, and she was swatted away like a fly, blowing the dust away and crashing through the waterfall of truth. The Kyuubi was standing there with some parts of its body fully recovered and others still healing from the Kumo Jinchuriki's 2 attacks. After witnessing Yugito being swiftly swatted away, B drew his swords, assumed a stance, and covered his body with lightning chakra armor. He spun rapidly as he attacked Kyuubi, thinking, "Shit, this isn't good. Hopefully I can keep him hurt and distracted and give Yugito time to recover. I never imagined that I would have to battle a Biju that was fully released. Shit, I think I broke a couple of ribs. Nibi, heal me as fast as you can. B is in trouble, and if he goes down we're screwed," Yugito thought as she coughed after hitting the temple wall behind the waterfall and grabbing her ribs. Inside Yugito, Nibi said, "I'm working on it, but you're out of this fight. If you use any more of my chakra, I'll send it right away, and you'll die. Your body simply isn't ready for it yet." Yugito scowled and said, "Well, try your best." As she started to slowly make her way back to where B was battling Kyuubi, she said, "I'll save up my regular chakra and hope I can help." After seeing B get swatted away, Yugito started to flash through hand signs and said, "Lightning style. Lightning strike." As she returned to the battlefield, she took in the situation and thought, the more B attacks the quicker the Kyuubi is healing in other areas besides the places that are being attacked. Shit, I better help B before he dies. 3 lightning bolts flew from Yugito's hand toward the Kyuubi, struck it, and caused it to roar, turn its attention to Yugito, and swipe at her. She jumped away to avoid the attack, but when she landed, she grabbed her ribs and let out a painful scream. Kyuubi heard this and saw her reaction, then swiped at her once more. "Are you alright?" B asked in a weary and wounded voice as he grabbed Yugito and leapt away from the Kyuubi paw. B turned pale when they saw that Kyuubi had its mouth open wide and was glowing white, preparing to fire a Biju blast. Yugito, who was in B's arms, said in a pained voice, "My ribs, I rebroke them, oh god." He said, "Yugito, I'm sorry. Me too, I'm sure you had a good reason for this. Goodbye, brother." Yugito scowled as she closed her eyes, letting a tear escape, and encircled B in an embrace. As he held her and closed his eyes, B said, "Goodbye, sis." When he was standing in front of the waterfall, Naruto blinked and started to look around in fear. B then said, "Yo, what's wrong, bro?" His eyes were wide as if he were about to hyperventilate, and Naruto asked, "What happened to Kyuubi? Where's all the destruction? What's going on?" B stepped forward, placing his hand on Naruto's shoulder and saying, "Whoa, calm down, breath." B said, "Now tell me what happened." After observing Naruto take a few moments to calm down for a few moments, your eyes began to glow violet pink, and you began to experience shock. After hearing B's words, Naruto, who had been holding his hands in an attempt to relax, froze and looked up, saying, "My eyes, they were glowing." "Yeah, is that important?" B said. "Was that the cause of your panic?" B, I know this is going to sound crazy, but when my eyes glowed like that, it's a... Naruto scowled, went away from B, and sat down on a boulder. "Special ability," B said. Naruto looked up at B and blinked, saying, "What?" "Every Jinchuriki receives a unique ability from their Biju," B stated. "Nibi Jinchuri gains control over hellfire, while Ichibi Jinchuriki gains mastery over sand." "What is your unique talent?" "I can make ink out of my spittle." "What do your eyes do?" Looking down, Naruto thought, "I think I know what happened, and if I'm right then I can't tell him the truth, but maybe he gave me a way out." Naruto bit his lip before uttering the words, "It's only happened a couple of times. I don't know how to explain it, but it sort of shows me my death." "It shows you how you're going to die," B said, blinking. "Could you elaborate?" Naruto glanced at the waterfall and said, "I saw myself fighting the darkness in my heart. He distracted me with some of my secret fears and pains, and he stabbed me in the heart. Kyuubi took over me. You and Yugito both fought against the Kyuubi with your Biju's help, but you both used these big blast ball things. You hurt Kyuubi, but he got back up, and when his last tail grew in, he destroyed you both." "But Yugito isn't here," B said. "She's well, I'll be," he said, looking in the direction from which they had entered the island. B stopped talking and said, "Looks like you're right about her being here, so what does this mean for you?" When Naruto turned to face her, "I can't fight my dark half. He made me realize I have a lot of trust issues that I need to resolve," Naruto said, casting a downward glance. "I can't fight him until I do, so I suppose this trip was pointless." "Not necessarily," B said. "You mentioned that you need to address your trust issues. Were you aware of your trust issues prior to this?" With a scowl, Naruto replied, "No, so that means this trip wasn't for nothing." B said, "I'm not just offering to teach you how to use your Biju once since you're still quite young. It would have been challenging for you to deal with it this time. I only made the offer now because of the current threat. Take the time you require to address your problems. If you require it, we can work on other strategies to help you get stronger in the interim." With a shocked expression, Naruto remarked, "You would still train me?" "Hey, we're brothers of burden," B said. "As the big brother, it is my responsibility to assist young men like you." A gasp came from the edge of the woods, followed by a growl, and Naruto grinned slightly. When Naruto and B turned to face the noises, they noticed Yugito wearing Kumo Hiates along with 2 other girls and a male teenager. "What the hell is he doing here?" Yugito Ni said, giving B a fierce look. As B put it, "Training," yelled Yugito, "you idiot." As Naruto thought, "Talk about deja vu," B turned to face the 3 teenagers who had come with Yugito and remarked, "Yo, I float like a butterfly and strike with a knee. Let me guess, I'm your new sensei, Kira B." With her arms folded, Yugito pointed to a man with dark skin and white hair and said, "Yes, this is your new genin team. This is Kurai, Samui, and that is Omoi." The 3 teenagers immediately bowed to B and said, "Hello sensei." B replied, "Now I am sure by the reaction Kitty here had toward this young man you all are wondering who he is and why she is upset. His name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, son of Minato Namikaze, Yandaime Hokage of Konoha, grandson of Tsunade Senju and Jiraiya of the Sanins, great-great-grandson of the Shodem Hokage, great-great-grandnephew of the Nidaime Hokage and the 3rd Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune." Samui exclaimed, "What is a Konoha ninja doing here, B-sensei?" As the 3 genin went wide-eyed. Naruto stated, "I'm not a Konoha ninja. In fact, I'm not a ninja to any village, and truthfully I don't know if I want to be a ninja to any village." Kurai replied, "How can you not be a Konoha ninja? You're practically Konoha royalty." Naruto sighed and said, "Royalty." The Sandaime Hokage past made a public announcement after the Kyuubi was released on Konoha that I was the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. He never told the people of Konoha who my family was or why I was chosen to hold the Kyuubi. Because of this, a lot of people feared me or hated me. I was placed in the orphanage before being kicked out when I was just a small child. I had to go through garbage cans for food and live on the street until I was found by someone who didn't see me as the Kyuubi and turned me over to the Hokage, who placed me in an apartment near the red light district. I was charged triple the price on items or was refused services into business. I could only buy orange jumpsuits and eat basically ramen while having my education sabotaged. I was either looked at with hate or completely ignored, if that's what you call royalty. I rather live as a nameless stranger in an unknown town." B put his hand on Naruto's shoulder and said, "Go cool off, kid. As soon as I evaluate these 3, then I'll decide how to help train all of you." Everyone else was shocked to hear the venom in Naruto's voice as he said those words. "According to Yugito, I can train myself," B replied, "and you will die alone." Yugito, the kid may not seem like much to you, but in the short amount of time I've known him, he has earned my respect and he has taught me a skill that will come in handy in the future that I plan to teach you, since it was created for someone like a Jinchuriki, something that will allow me to train all 6 of us, including myself. The Kage Bunshin no Jutsu." Omoi inquired, "What's so special about this Kage Bunshin no Jutsu?" The Kage Bunshin no Jutsu is a Junin level kinjutsu that divides the chakra of the user in half. It creates solid clones without the need of an element who have all the knowledge of their creator and is able to use nearly every jutsu that the original can. Naruto, who had gone to the water near the waterfall and soaked a piece of cloth to wash his face and neck, stood up and said, "They can only take 1 solid hit before dispelling, but once they do, everything they learn is transferred to the original, and the other Kage Bunshin of the original except physically learned skills, jutsu, chakra control, and scouting information are all included in the things that could be learned though." He then walked back over, his face neutral. Yugito replied, "And what did you get out of giving this jutsu to B?" Naruto stated, "I've trained myself to use every one of the 5 elements to some extent. B taught me a little bit about lightning manipulation in order to help me use the lightning jutsu I already know better." "Now that you mean it, bro, you never told me what jutsu you know, so why don't you start out so we can get this thing on the roll?" B said, placing his hand to his chin. Naruto looked at him and said, "For lightning I know the static palm that medic nin can use to scramble the nerves of someone, making it where if they try to move their left pinky then their right eye would move or something like that. I also know the bug zapper jutsu." After the 3 genin chuckled, Kurai remarked, "What kind of stupid ass jutsu is that?" B said in a serious voice, A very deadly one actually. Kuraiwa created that jutsu in order to fend off the Aburame clan's bugs who would devour their target's chakra so that the victim could either be captured or killed from chakra exhaustion. Just because a jutsu has a stupid name does not mean it is a joke of a jutsu. Now since you know jutsu for every element, go ahead and tell us the other ones you know, yo, he said in a more rapping tone after he had had time to process the words. As Yugito and the three genins perspired, Naruto sighed and remarked, well, I know the Flaming Stone Fireball Jutsu and the Phoenix Fireball Jutsu. B smiles and continues, too good jutsu. If I had to guess, you learned the Phoenix Fireball Jutsu so you could conceal weapons inside of it, so that way when you learned the Flaming Stone Fireball Jutsu you would already know the proper level of fire chakra to mix in to keep from causing the stones inside of the fire from exploding, right? According to Naruto, or to explode early to cause the flaming shrapnel to hit multiple targets. B replied, I'm impressed, please continue. You. Naruto looked at him and said, wind is my primary element, but I only know the Great Breakthrough no Jutsu and the Dust Wind no Jutsu. You only know 2 jutsu for every element, you suck, Yugito said in a snobbish voice. As the water from the pond rose up and shot toward Yugito, who growled and leapt back, Naruto scowled and said, really? Then listen closely, pussy, because you're fixing to be all wet. He then went through hand signs and said, water style, Grand Waterfall no Jutsu. Prior to landing, she heard the words, Mizubunshin no Jutsu. As B grabbed the 3 genin and landed on a tree branch, 30 Naruto water clones emerged from the water that now covered the area. After each water clone made a hand sign, water whips formed on their hands and they started hitting Yugito, who snarled and charged at the clones. She turned to attack another clone after destroying the first one, but a voice beneath her said, Water Prison no Jutsu. As water swiftly encircled Yugito in a sphere, Naruto emerged from the earth, made a half-hand seal, and uttered the words, Bug Zapper no Jutsu. Yugito was immediately electrocuted, as were all the clones. After a few seconds, the water prison was destroyed, Yugito fell to the ground in a twitching heap, and the Naruto who had been holding him rose in smoke. B replied, good job bro, but you know she's going to kill you, so you might want to start running before she lets her inner kitty grow. Naruto's voice behind them said, no, if she's going to be a bitch I'm going to do to her the same thing I do to my lovers when they piss me off. The 3 genin were in a state of shock and searching for Naruto when they heard him scream out. When B saw Naruto leap to the ground and begin to approach Yugito, he raised an eyebrow and remarked, really, what's that? Yugito, who was just waking up, blinked and had time to glance at Naruto before she found herself flying through the air and landing in the pond. The waterfall fell into. Naruto grinned and raised his hands toward her, and chains swiftly sprang out of them, binding her hand and feet. Before the area was covered in massive ki from the waterfall where the form of Yugito was seen standing on the water looking extremely pissed, Naruto turned and said, I make them cool off by drowning their ass. When Nibi chakra started to cover her, she said, I'm going to kill you. To everyone's surprise, Naruto smirked and said, here kitty kitty, catch the birdie. He then started to float into the air. As Nibi's form squatted and leapt toward Naruto, more chains emerged from his body and wrapped around his body, neck, and tail. Now 100 feet in the air, Naruto started to spin to the left, which made Nibi spin as well as Naruto's speed increased. So did Nibi's, and the genin head followed the screeching form of Nibi as it swiftly spanned before Naruto released the chakra chains and sent Nibi hurtling westward. An explosion was heard striking the ocean's water a few seconds later. Damn, that took more out of me than I thought it would, Naruto said as he fell to his knees, panting, after rapidly falling toward the ground but safely landing. Well, I can see you really are a ladies' man. You made Nibi and Yugito both a pair of wet pussies, B said, laughing. After emerging in a cloud of smoke, Yugito started scanning the area before focusing on Naruto. Naruto could see her cloths look torn up and she looked tired and pissed and said, I'm going to make you pay. As she pulled out a kunai and charged at Naruto, who had stood up slowly when she first appeared, and the next moment Yugito was pulled underground until only her head was above ground, and Naruto smirked and walked over and squatted down in front of her and said, you know, foxes are distant relatives of dogs. Dogs usually piss on things to mark their territory. The things that get marked after the dog leaves usually has the dog's scent on it and is usually wet. As he put his hand on Yugito's hair and messed it up and said, there, now you're all wet and my scent's on you. If you weren't such a bitch, maybe we might have been able to have come out with the same situation of you being wet with my scent on you, but from a much more enjoyable way to beat the hell out of each other. As he stood up and said, I'm a little tired B. Pounding pussy tires me out. If you still want to train me, I'll start in the morning then so you can get to know your actual students. See ya. As he went up in smoke. As he approached and dragged Yugito out of the ground where she had been staring at the location where Naruto vanished, B said, and that is why you should never underestimate anyone who could be an enemy, regardless of rank, name, or status. Leaning over, B whispered, leave him alone. Yugi, you have been trying to start a fight with him ever since he tricked you back in Kumo when he had a clone pose as the real him now. Cool down and clean up tomorrow. All 6 of us will start training, and I expect you to follow my instructions, or I'll have bro put you on D-rank missions for the entire time we are on lockdown in the village until Akatsuki and the spy are dealt with. Do you get me? Yes. Yugito hissed as she stomped off after turning around. B said, now introduce yourself and your skills and thrills my pupils. Samui, Omoi, and Kurai all asked themselves, is this guy really our sensei? Yugito went to where B was sitting that night after the 3 genins had gone to sleep and said, can I have a word with you, B? B replied, you want to know why I am helping him, why I was willing to let the kid kick your ass yesterday, and why I brought him here, right? B gestured to the ground in front of Yugito, who nodded. Yugito sat down in front of B and said, Yugito, you're a special case when it comes to Jinchuriki. You never had to face the animosity of other Jinchuriki. You never had your heart filled with darkness due to your pain and suffering since you saw very little of it in your life. The Jinchuriki of the Hachibi before me, he learned the lesson from the Uzumakis who first sealed the bijus on how to learn to master them, though he never completely mastered them. Before I became his successor, he told my brother the secret, though both thought that I was asleep at the time when they were talking about it. The secret for a Jinchuriki to be able to master the biju inside of them is they have to have their hearts filled with love and happiness, something most Jinchuriki can't do because of the hate and abuse they have in their life. Yugito replied, but that was different for you and me, right? B replied, no, just you. Even I have had to deal with it. My best friend turned on me and tried to kill me once because the Hachibi killed his father before it was sealed in me. But what does this have to do with him? Asked Yugito. B let out a sigh and replied, Yugito, what do you think of Naruto's choice of coming to warn us about this threat to our lives? Wait, before you answer, I don't want your official answer, I want your honest opinion. After he finished listening to B's entire statement, Yugito said, I think he's an idiot. He did not owe us or Iwa anything. In fact, with him knowing that our village tried to kidnap his mother and I was feeling toward his father, the fact that he came to either was the stupidest thing he could have done. Either village could have captured or killed him for it. After nodding, B remarked, I agree. So the question is, why did he do it? With a frown, Yugito remarked, because he's stupid. B nodded his head and replied, no, the reason he did it is because even with the life he has lived, he is willing to do what he feels is right to help people so others wouldn't have to feel the pain he has. It doesn't matter if it is a friend or enemy, Jinchuriki, bloodline, rich, poor. If you were him and in his position, would you have done what he has? Be honest. With her lips pursed, Yugito said, no, I wouldn't. Yugito's eyes widened when B said, exactly. His mother Kushina, my brother, and I were part of the team that kidnapped her. B smiles and continues, she was around the same age as you are now. Yugito, his father caught up to us and fought us. He defeated me and my brother. Even when I was using the Hachibi power, he could have killed me or my brother, but he spared us. He had every right to kill us both, but he instead told my brother and I that we were lucky to have each other, that only by having love in our hearts for each other would we be able to become truly strong to protect each other. Sound familiar? After giving it some thought, Yugito's eyes widened and she exclaimed, he. B replied, yes, he was telling us what we needed to do in order for me to gain complete control of the Hachibi. As loath as my brother is to admit it, he respected Minato as do I. When I look at his son's eyes, I see the same thing I saw in Minato's eyes the day he rescued Kushina. It's something I'm willing to do anything to make sure it isn't destroyed. What is it? Yugito inquired. B laughed and replied, that is something you will have to figure out yourself. If you would stop being a total bitch toward him and swallow your pride to actually get to know him, you would find the answer very easily. Now the 3 of you who are pretending to sleep and the one who has a cage bun shin disguised as a bird keeping watch should get some sleep. Training begins an hour before dawn. Everybody's eyes widened, except B's, and Yugito started to scan the area before spotting a bird. Her nails grew out, and then she vanished, appeared behind the bird, and clawed it, sending it up in smoke. She scowled at B, who was grinning, after it was gone, then sighed and went into the woods. When Naruto heard a noise the following morning while taking a bath in a stream, he turned to see Yugito standing on the shore, glaring at him. Take a picture, it would last longer, pervert, Naruto said. Before she stomped off, Yugito sighed and said, B sent me to get you. All right, my students, today's first lesson is to learn to go with the flow, something any good shinobi should know. He returned to the area near the waterfall after getting dressed and getting out. Since there are 3 guys and 3 with boobs, we will pair off into couples and learn to tumble, jumble, and rumble, B said. Yugito, you will be my partner for this and you are to spar with me without using your fist, B said as everyone looked perplexed. Yugito asked, what do you mean, B? B stated, you are to attack me with only your legs while I will also attack you with my legs, but we will not be allowed to block or use jutsu. You must try to land a hit on me with your feet while using your flexibility to dodge my strikes. Flexibility is very important in ninjutsu, taijutsu, genjutsu, and kenjutsu. By learning to use your flexibility you will be able to learn to dodge and strike in ways your enemy won't be able to. Now I want you 4 to watch Yugito and me for the next 5 minutes before you pair off into 2 couples and do it for an hour. After that we will take a 5-minute break before breaking up into 2 new pairs and repeat this until everyone has faced each other, as 2 flames appeared behind him. Along with Yugito, B took a stance and said, to help you with this I will have my 2 cage bun shin here create a beat. Every second one will strike a log so that way you will hear your own body's song. Let's go. One of the 2 cage bun shin struck first with his left hand, then his right, and then the next one with his left hand, then his right. The first one began with his left hand, and then the other cage bun shin struck with his left hand at the same moment that he struck with his right, and soon a tap 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 sound was heard. Come on Yugito, stay close. You lost the ground you already had by retreating. Now you have to work twice as hard to get in close to strike. B continued to move his body in time with the sounds of the strikes on the log as he attempted to kick Yugito's head, but he swayed slightly to his left and then to his right. Yugito scowled as he retreated toward B and dodged a kick before being struck by the subsequent one. Oh yeah, come on, oh yeah, let's go, oh yeah, come on, oh yeah, come on, oh yeah, let's go, oh yeah, come on, oh yeah, feel the rhythm, feel the rush, come on everyone, feel the fun, oh yeah, let's go, jump to the beat, jump to the beat, jump to the beat, oh yeah, come on, feel the rhythm, feel the rush, jump to the beat. B began clapping with the strikes on the log and bopping his head. Yugito snarled as she was kicked sideways once more and was ready to stand up when Naruto extended his hand and uttered the words, tag me. After Yugito blinked, Naruto remarked, tag me, I understand what he's doing. Yugito scowled, but he took his hand and stood up. Naruto then backflipped near B and kicked him, causing him to roll. Naruto then began to clap while moving his head and saying, oh yeah, feel the rhythm, feel the beat, jump to the rhythm, leap with your feet, oh yeah, let's go, come on everyone, jump with music, jump with your feet. He ducked under leg sweep and delivered a heel kick toward B's head, who performed a one-handed stand before cartwheeled over another kick and returned with his own, clapping when he could, and then started to move while singing the words. The others gradually realized what was happening when they witnessed B and Naruto essentially dancing. After 20 minutes, B noticed Yugito and Samui doing the same, and Omoi and Kurai had also started to do it. When the moment came, he swapped himself out for Yugito, who was using the same swinging kick as B now. Yugito was up against Naruto, who had been so engrossed in the moment that he didn't realize the switch until he had executed 2 more follow-up kicks, and even then, he was still grinning. Contrary to what B had initially stated, the group didn't take a break until 3 hours later, after he had switched with each member at least once. When they finished, B grinned and said, good job everyone, now take a break and I'll tell you all why I had you do this. Lightning is an element of energy. Energy while in motion stays in motion. By using lightning you can move longer, faster, and with less energy than you can if you used just regular chakra or your body. Lightning is also created from movement. The more you move the more lightning you can create. Now can anyone tell me why I would be telling you this after what we just did? According to Samui, because blocking would have made us stop moving. The moves we were doing was to teach us to attack while in motion. B replied, correct, your feet should never be still. When you punch something you are transferring your movement into power, but you are also stopping your movements. That is why I prefer kenjutsu over taijutsu, because in kenjutsu you have the option of using movement for a slash or power for a jab. In taijutsu you don't have that option. When you slash you can take out multiple enemies, where with a jab you are taking out only one. After giving the other 5 a moment to process the words, B declared, now that we have the basic lesson out of the way for now, it's time for our next training session. But sensei, we're still exhausted, Kurai moaned. B replied, which is why the next lesson is going to help you with your stamina. Naruto, would you mind using your dust element to help out? Naruto inquired, what do you mean? B said, since you already have great stamina, what I want you to work on is your chakra control and reserves. I know that fight with Yugito tired you out even if you didn't want to show it, so what I want you to do is use your dust element and make 4 balls of condensed dust about as big as your head. Then the other 4 here will take 1 ball each and carry it above Their head with Their left hand and run 5 laps around the island before switching to Their right hand and run around the island heading the other direction. You will stay here at the center of the island and have to focus on keeping the balls together. Today all of you will start by heading north and then east before switching and heading south. Tomorrow Yugito will start by heading west instead of east. First the day after that Omoi will go west with Yugito to make it harder. I don't know if you will be able to handle having to control multiple direction at once, but after 3 days of 2 going one way while the other 2 go the opposite direction, you will have to use 2 balls for each person and repeating the exercise after getting back to the same level with 2 balls. Then we will start using heavier balls. Got it? Naruto replied. So you're working on Their speed, strength, and stamina all at the same time while working on my chakra reserves and control, right? B nods and says, but don't worry, I'll make you start doing it too after the first 2 days, but you'll have to do it while holding a ball in your hand and water walking, and you won't have to switch until everyone else has done so. Everyone saw 4 balls of dust form together as Naruto nodded and focused, and he started to perspire a little. Yugito remarked, what are you going to be doing, B? Until I can get you all real swords, I'm going to use my old forge here and make you each a training sword to learn the fundamentals of Kenjutsu, B stated. Proceed now. Naruto thought, this is going to be a lot harder than I thought, but I also want to speak to B about my parents, as each of the Kumo nins started to take the balls and flee right now. My only options are to train and wait for the ideal moment to speak with him. After a week of practice, B had Yugito, Kurai, Samui, Omoi, and Naruto each hold 1 on each hand with chakra and move them from above their head to their side to in front of them and back to their head as they moved, gaining arm strength since they had to move it. They also had to hold onto the balls of dust with chakra to make them stick. This demonstrated that Naruto's control of his dust element had improved enough that he could now control 10 balls of dust element. After 2 days of getting used to holding dust balls in both hands, B made sure that everyone except himself had a practice sword and started teaching them the fundamentals of swinging, blocking, jabbing, and countering with both hands. As part of their warm-up exercises, B had them all dance for 3 hours each day to improve their flexibility, which has gotten faster for each of them. A voice said, at it again, kid. Naruto was sitting on the island's edge at around midnight, with a number of his Kage Bunshin standing or floating over the water, practicing each of the jutsu he was familiar with. When Naruto turned to face B remarked, you've been sneaking out and working with your Kage Bunshin every night. I realize that I need to get stronger in other ways because I can't use Kyuubi chakra right now, Naruto said, scowling as he turned back to the water. The main thing I'm working on is improving my jutsu control. B smiles and continues, a master of a few jutsu will often defeat a person who knows many jutsu, but that's not what is really on your mind, is it? Can you tell me about my parents? Asked Naruto, casting a downward glance. Could you tell me more about the group that attempted to kidnap my mother? You mentioned that you were a member of that group. My only recollection of them is from an accident in which I recalled the day of my birth, when the furball was sewed into my body. I only met them in person that one day, B said, pausing for a moment before continuing, but your mother was a beautiful woman. She had this temper, though. Don't get me started, kid. Your dad had this air of confidence around him that made others would be inspired by him. She was lethal when we first went to fight her, but the real battle started when she lost her temper. Your mother's power and beauty complemented your father's speed, intelligence, and charisma, making them the ideal match. I would much rather fight a Biju than your mother when she was angry. Your father spared me and my brother that day, B said, and Naruto grinned a little. He had the option to kill us both, but he decided not to. However, we weren't most affected by his actions that day, rather, it was his words. With a detached expression on his face, B asked Naruto, what did he say? He told me the lesson you failed to realize when you fought the darkness in your heart, B said, turning to face Naruto. I can't tell you that lesson until you realize it. There is a difference between learning the lesson and realizing it many times. You become aware of something long before you formally learn it. I can tell you what he said. Once you realize it, I apologize. No, you're right. I can't expect things handed to me just like that, Naruto said, biting his lip, sounding a little down. I said, at least I know something else about my parents. Get some rest, kid, B said. He stood up and walked away, saying, we have training tomorrow. While his clones continued working on what they had been working on the entire time, Naruto spent some time gazing out to sea. He felt a hand on his shoulder and blinked when he saw Yugito standing there, asking, what did I do wrong this time, princess? Inhale. Before he stood up and started to leave, he sarcastically said, I don't feel like arguing with you right now. Yugito crossed her arms, sighed, and scowled, saying, and here I was trying to be nice to you. Looking back at Yugito, Naruto paused and remarked, "Why be nice to me now when you couldn't stand me even being in your country, much less here?" After inhaling deeply, Yugito said, "I am sorry B pointed out to me that I have been a little bit of a bitch to you for no reason." Snorting, Naruto uttered, "A little, all right, I've been a complete hellcat." Yugito sighed, "Can you hold me responsible for whoever's inside me? You are a cunning fox. And I am a hellcat. The personalities of our inner beasts are present in both of us." Naruto replied, "That might explain B bringing me here when it's obvious not something his brother wouldn't like me being here." Yugito laughed and said, "Yeah, he is a little bullheaded." "I apologize for being snippy," Naruto said, rubbing the back of his head. "I simply didn't feel like having our typical arguments because I was thinking about other things when you surprised me." "Our typical fights," Yugito said. "You act as though our arguments are commonplace." Snorts Naruto as he says, "If you ever met my first crush you would realize why I act like fighting is normal, though I've learned a lot about women since then." "I'm sure you have," Yugito said. "You do have a reputation for luring kunoichi to acquire knowledge and secret jutsu, after all." "Do what?" Naruto asked, blinking repeatedly. "What do you mean that I'm known for attracting kunoichi?" "Recall the time we were in Raikage-sama's office and you claimed to be having an affair with the granddaughter of Naidame Tsuchikage. Yugito said you discovered the element of dust in this way." After blinking, Naruto started to laugh slowly before erupting, leaving Yugito perplexed and asking, "What's so funny?" "I am sleeping with the Naidame Tsuchikage granddaughter, but she was the one who seduced me," Naruto remarked, pausing to catch his breath. "Actually, she was the one who stole my virginity." After blinking, Yugito remarked, "But you did have her give you the secret to the dust element, right?" "Actually no, her father did." Naruto stated. "He promised to train me in exchange for a special mission, if you will." Yugito looked at him and replied, "So you knowing the dust element has nothing to do with the fact you're sleeping with the Naidame Tsuchikage granddaughter?" Naruto said, "Well, maybe a little," with a contemplative expression. "It was never my goal to gain anything more than companionship, though I doubt I would have met him if I hadn't been sleeping with her. After alerting the Sandame Tsuchikage about the Akatsuki, I simply used my knowledge of the dust element to deceive him into not attacking me until I was able to flee. I took advantage of his generosity in validating my warning with that bingo book entry and providing the names of a few that I was unaware of in order to help alert you, B, and your cage about them." "Unbelievable," Yugito said, covering her eyes with her left hand while chuckling softly to herself. "I've been making Samio, Kurai, and myself avoid you for a long time because I believed you to be such a danger to us." "Well, that explains why they kept leaving with you as soon as practice was over," said Naruto with a frown. "I assumed they simply didn't like me." "Sorry about that," Yugito said, looking astonished. Naruto uttered, "Now what? Do you think we could actually have a conversation and possibly become friends, or will we just be sniping at each other for the remainder of our time here?" Yugito puckered up and replied, "I guess it wouldn't hurt to be friends now that I know you're not going to try and seducing us into betraying our village like you did the Nidaime's family." Naruto said, "They did not betray their village," while placing his hands on his hips, since those were family jutsu rather than iwajutsu, and since Sensei was the head of the family, he had the right to decide whether or not to teach me them. The Sandame Tsuchikage exiled him after he lost a significant battle against my dad in the previous war. And Yugito scowled, "So the Nidaime's son doesn't live in Iwa?" Naruto replied, "No, I don't like Iwa personally because they had tortured the Jinchurikis of the Yanbi and Gobi with seals and other methods that are inhuman and painful, which made them slaves basically, but since both Han and Roshi are Sensei brothers I owed it to him to warn Iwa to protect them for Sensei." Recalling B's remarks, Yugito scowled and remarked, "I suppose I must be protected from other Jinchurikis' lives. As Sensei mentioned, I have experienced some hurtful glares and whispers, but I haven't really received any of the treatment that you or B say other people have received. Perhaps you should actually get to know someone before passing judgment on them or adding your own information about something you don't fully understand." Naruto said, "You assumed that I was a pervert of some sort who had affairs with women in order to gain power. Then you assumed you knew what hell some of us had to endure, and who knows what else you were mistaken about. You do know that by provoking me, you're not making it easier to become friends," Yugito said, raising an eyebrow. "Correct?" Smirking, Naruto continued, "I also know women think they're always right, and if you find an instant that you can prove them wrong to the point they have to admit you're right, you have to either milk it for all it's worth or you never say a word about it and have the woman you prove wrong hold it over your head for the rest of your life the next time a situation arises that proved you're right and a woman is wrong." Naruto's eye narrowed slightly as Yugito pursed her lip, and Yugito said, "What?" "Huh," said Naruto, looking perplexed. "You narrowed your eyes as if you noticed something that piqued your interest. Yugito said, since ninjas typically avoid dangerous situations, what caused you to narrow your eyes? With a sheepish expression, Naruto remarked, I hanged into my mother during my escape from Iwa, and I discovered that the size of a woman's breasts can cause shoulder and back pain. I saw that you were attempting to relax your shoulder muscles, just as I had to do when I was a woman. With her arms folded across her chest, Yugito pursed her lips and uttered, you're not supporting your claim that you're not a pervert. Since I was posing as a civilian woman when I sneaked out of Iwa, I met an elderly couple. One of the women noticed that I was complaining about back pain, so she taught me a temporary solution. Since you know that Kage Bunshin doesn't have jutsu, you could learn how to do it yourself and avoid having to deal with the pain or worrying about perverted men taking advantage of you, Naruto said. In order to find the time, he glanced up at the sky to see where the moon was. I just thought to teach you it. How can I trust that you won't do anything perverted when I take my shirt off? Yugito asked, biting her lip. Yugito responded, I'm not stupid. As Naruto arched an eyebrow, I assume that in order to have easier access to my back during a massage, you will want me to remove my shirt. At the very least, those are lines I've heard before. You can have a Kage Bunshin watch, and if that's not enough protection for you, you could have the other two ladies learn it as well, Naruto said with a shrug. I already know Samui will experience the same issue as you, and I assume Kurai will too, especially considering that you are all three kunoichis. What does being kunoichi have to do with anything? Yugito asked, blinking. Since chakra is formed in the heart, Naruto stated, the chakra network passes through the chest because more chakra is flowing through them. Kunoichi will have larger breasts the more chakra they acquire. After giving it some apparent thought, Yugito remarked, that would explain why Tsunade had such a large breast. After all, she is a Sannin. As Naruto put it, oh, you've met Grandma Tsunade before. It's been a while, but yeah, Yugito said, cursing herself and thinking, shit, I wasn't going to tell him that. I got to know her. Therefore, you're willing to teach Kurai, Samui, and I how to relieve our back pain. I could teach you how to completely eliminate the back pain from your breasts if you truly trusted me, Naruto said. I'm aware that you don't trust me enough to give me your opinion. A hiss came from the woods, and both Naruto and Yugito turned to see Samui and Kurai standing there. A female voice from the woods said, if what you said is true, I'll trust you. What are you both doing here? Asked Yugito. Kurai gave Naruto a suspicious look and remarked, we came to make sure he didn't put any moves on you to seduce you. Samui replied, can you really help get rid of my back pain and teach me how to stop the pain completely? Yeah, Naruto said casually. Actually, it's not that difficult. As Samui put it, tell me, please. Not without Yugito's permission, Naruto said. Glancing at Yugito, I don't want your teammate or her to attack me because they believe I'm a pervert, especially since she's the top female Kumo nin here. Are you willing to let him touch you, Samui? Yugito asked with a frown. Are you stuffing your bra and secretly flat-chested? Asked Samui. You have no idea how much my back hurts from having large breasts. In an amused tone, Kurai remarked, the fact that you were an early bloomer, which everyone noticed, has nothing to do with that, right Samui? With a scowl, Samui said to Kurai, at least boys actually do notice me. Enough, said Yugito. I don't need you two to act like two crazy fangirls who are fighting over a guy now. I suppose we should all see what Naruto is doing if you are certain that you can trust him to touch you. If I am going to be giving a massage, then I figure that having some lotion would make it more enjoyable for the person getting massage, Naruto said, holding a pair of coconuts that he had pulled off a nearby tree using his dust element. Although scented oil and coconut milk make a great massage oil, I'll just use the coconut milk since I don't have any scented oil now. If you don't mind, just sit down in a comfortable position and lift your shirt over your head, resting it on your legs while holding it over the front of your chest with your arms, since I'm only going to massage your back, only that will be exposed. You mean that all this arguing we were doing to protect our modesty was for nothing? Yugito asked, raising an eyebrow. It's not my fault you have a bad habit of assuming the worst in people, Naruto shrugged. She said, fine Mr. Oh so grat bastard, as Yugito snarled and swiftly tore off the front of her shirt over her head, revealing to everyone that her breasts were wrapped. She marched over to where Naruto had been sitting earlier and took a seat, saying, let's see if you really are as good as you claim you are. I guess you will have to wait your turn, Naruto shrugged, then turned to face Yugito and said, I'll have to remove your bindings. The other three started to perspire as Yugito made a cutting noise as she cut her own bindings. After piercing a hole in a coconut with a kunai and pouring milk over his hand, Naruto asked, do you want to create a? Naruto responded, all right. As Yugito snarled, the first thing you should understand is that the larger muscles you are experiencing pain in are not the cause of your breast-related back pain. Since the larger muscles are the same ones you use to lift your arms, they can easily handle the strain of your breasts. The issue is really with the smaller support muscles because they aren't as big as your main muscles and don't receive as much exercise, which causes them to tire out more quickly. Therefore, you should approach this as though it were a mission. He started massaging the muscles close to Yugito's lower back in tiny circles before gradually increasing in size. Think your large muscles are an enemy fortress, but before you get there you have to first take out the patrol routes that are farthest away. Yugito moaned uncontrollably a few moments later, and Naruto responded, "Mixing a little chakra into the oil will not only help warm it up but cause the muscles to relax quicker. Now that we've eliminated the farthest patrols, next we need to work toward the outpost and take them out," Naruto said. Grabbing some more milk after a few minutes of working on her lower back, he then moved up Yugito back a little more, which caused Yugito to relax and groan once more. Be sure to watch for tiny pockets of resistance, Naruto advised as he reached 2 spots. Yugito bit her lip to keep herself from making any noise, but after Naruto's statement, she couldn't help but groan once more and shuddered a little. More chakra and resources are usually required for these areas. Kurai and Samui both flushed when they noticed Yugito's response to the massage. Yugito was essentially a puddle of goo from the pleasure she was experiencing after Naruto worked on her back for 10 minutes. After adding more milk to his hands and warming them up, Naruto said, "Now that we've taken out all the resistance, it's time for the main assault on the fortress." He then proceeded to Yugito's upper back. Her whole body trembled with the pleasure Yugito was experiencing, and she moaned for a very long time before passing out with what sounded like purring, her eyes glossed over. "And there you have it," Naruto said, pausing at this point, "the ideal remedy for back pain. Why are you both staring at me that way?" When Yugito, Samui, and Kurai met B and Omoi the following morning, they all exuded an aura that was hard to ignore. A few minutes later, Naruto entered the camp with bags under his eyes. He saw B opening his mouth, and he said, "Not a word, B," in a weary tone. "Nothing. I will have to miss today's training. I believe I went overboard last night." "Right," B said in a drawn-out tone after glancing at Naruto and then at the contented-looking women. "You do realize my brother's going to kill you, right?" He then added. "Nibi will kill him if he tries to harm her official petter." Yugito declared his magic hands are causing her to purr with pleasure. All 3 women sighed in satisfaction at those words, causing Omoi's sucker to fall out of his mouth. B shook his head and remarked, "I hope you all remember to use protection." Kurai smiled as she passed out just before Samui did, followed by Yugito, and said in a dreamy voice, "Protection? Who needs stinking protection?" The next moment, Naruto was still standing there, but he was sleeping where he was, and he was snoring. B replied, "I'm getting too old for this shit." Naruto had tamed the 3 female turtles on the island, and they had been training there for 2 weeks. On Turtle Island, a figure was moving slowly through the woods when it tensed up and a man's voice asked, "Who are you and what are you doing here?" "I am here looking for Naruto Uzumaki. I know he is here. I won't say anything until I see him," the figure said in a female voice. "And why shouldn't I kill you for trespassing in Kumo territory?" the male voice asked. The female replied, "Because my life is more valuable to Naruto than my death would be. Jinchuriki of the Hachibi Kira B." After a moment of tenseness, the man asked, "How do you know about that or me?" The woman was quiet before B replied, "Fine lady, I'll take you to Uzumaki and he'll give me the answers I want. Keep walking straight ahead and don't try anything funny or I'll kill you and ask Naruto later." With a sword in his hand, ready to strike if necessary, the man remained a few paces behind the woman as she nodded and continued to walk. When they entered a clearing a few minutes later, B remarked, "Yo Uzumaki, there's a lady here you got to see." When Kurai, Samui, Omoi, Yugito, and Naruto halted their 5-way fight and turned to face B, they noticed a woman with bluish-purple hair standing there. Naruto said, "Hi, who are you?" The lady stated, "We met once but you never saw my face back in Konoha in your apartment. You could say that by the end of the night when I left you were out cold in bed. I left a scroll for you telling you goodbye." "Are you alone or are you here with a partner?" Naruto asked, his eyes widening as he looked around. Hearing Naruto's words, everyone tensed except for the woman, who looked around before responding, "Yes, I am alone." "What are you doing here and how did you find me?" scowled Naruto. The woman continued, "I placed a small tracking seal on you before I left that night, just in case." With a scowl, Naruto uttered, "So you can track me everywhere I go." Naruto frowned even more when the woman said, "And I know where you've been as well." "Uzumaki," B said, "Who is this woman?" With a frown, Naruto uttered, "She's." The lady replied, "You may call me Conan. Can I speak to you privately, Uzumaki?" Naruto wept and replied, "Not a chance in hell until I know why you are here. I may owe you one, but I'm not going to take a chance if this is some kind of trap." With a sigh, Conan uttered, "I want you to seduce me." While everyone else gaped, Kurai yelled, "What the hell, you old hag?" as they all continued to blink. Naruto replied, "What the hell, Conan, why in the hell would you?" Conan intervened and stated, "Seduce me, and the secret of where you went after leaving Konoha will never escape my lips. As my lover, you will have the right to my secrets and can decide what to do with them, all of them. After that, my place will be by your side." After hearing what Conan had to say, everyone turned to look at Naruto. Naruto scowled, narrowed his eyes, and then, after a few moments, he said, "You can't go back, can you?" Conan replied, "You have matured since I last saw you, it seems so. Do you accept?" With a frown, Naruto remarked, "I see, and if I refuse?" As Conan put it, "You know the answer to that as well." Yugito remarked, "Naruto, who exactly is this woman?" as Naruto bit his lip. Inhaling deeply, Naruto uttered, She's the one who warned me about Akatsuki in the first place." "How did you know about Akatsuki, and how do you about the Hachibi and me?" B asked as everyone's eyes widened. Conan stated, "Akatsuki was not originally a group that wanted to capture the Biju. Akatsuki was originally a group of resistance fighters fighting again a tyrant who shall remain nameless. Said tyrant was stopped, but only after Akatsuki joining a man who I will call the founder. The founder offered his assistance in defeating the tyrant and was successful before he killed everyone but the original founders of Akatsuki. He forced us to join him." Yugito remarked, "You're an Akatsuki member," as everyone's eyes widened. Conan responded, "Former. Actually, by now the founder knows that I am a traitor and is most likely hunting me down to kill me for my betrayal. Uzumaki knows why I betrayed Akatsuki, and I am willing to give more information on them to him, and he can do what he wants with it, but he must agree to make it appear that he originally seduced me when he caught me spying on him to gather information on him. So do we have a deal, or does your Heims become public knowledge?" as she gazed at Naruto. "You're not making any friends here, Conan," said Naruto with a frown. Conan stated, "I'm not here to make friends. You know why I am doing this. I may be the weakest member of Akatsuki, but I am still an S-rank ninja." Naruto looked at him and replied, "If you really know about where I have been, then tell me something. Which way is it from Konoha?" "You want the land route or the boat route?" Conan said, glancing at Naruto. Naruto widened his eyes and sighed. "Fine, you keep what you know about where I have been a secret and tell all of us the info on the members of Akatsuki and their abilities. After that, you and I will leave. I don't want to risk any of my precious people and all the people on this island, but you are precious to me." As she held out both of her hands, paper started to fly around her and form 2 books. "This is pretty much everything I know about the members of Akatsuki and its members minus me," Conan said, adding, "One for you, Naruto, and one for them. The rest I know will remain a secret, because if it comes out, then my life would be better being over than living." After flipping through one of the books and thinking, "Everything but her and pain," Naruto then grabbed the other book and looked through it, saying, "They're the same." Conan replied, "Of course, there I have more to gain by you all getting stronger and being able to fight the Akatsuki. If you can kill all the members that are listed there, then all I have to worry about is the founder who isn't in there. As long as he isn't in there, then he will stay in the shadows, but if he comes out of hiding, we are all dead." Whistling, B said, "Damn, that's a lot of info. Are you sure about this, Nine?" as she started to read the book. Looking at Conan, who tensed, Naruto scowled and said, "It's probably best this way, B. I'm not a Kumo Nin and you already took a big risk bringing me here." Conan's right. If we can take out the members of Akatsuki, then we are all safer. Once we deal with those in the book, we will focus on the guy who isn't listed here. I think he's the same guy who released the Kyuubi on Konoha, and I have a hunch who he is as well. Conan replied, "If you had even the slightest idea of who he is, you know he is far too dangerous for you or any of the others here to fight, even together. You threaten my precious people again, and I don't care if you are an S-rank ninja, I'll kill you." Naruto scowled as he approached Conan, put his hand on her cheek, and said, "I don't trust you, and I may claim to have seduced you, but I will not sleep with someone I don't care for." His eyes briefly turned red before returning to their icy blue color. The key Naruto's words and Conan's nods gave everyone a tense feeling, and they both vanished in a cloud of smoke, shocking everyone. After a quick glance around, Yugito asked, "Where are they? What happened to them?" After closing his eyes, B uttered the words, "Smart 9 smart." Samui replied, "What do you mean, sensei? What is Naruto doing?" B stated, "He's using his dust element to create summon seals in the air, and he's using them to take both him and Conan away from here across the sea." According to Omoi, "How do you know, sensei?" B turned to him and replied, because it's the only way he could travel a mile in an instant. Looks like it won't be long before he recreates his father's signature jutsu. Now come on, we're returning to Kumo and informing bro. The sooner we get this info out, the sooner everyone will be in the know, as he tightly gripped the book. Before she puked on the ground beneath them, Konan had a hand over her mouth when she and Naruto stopped moving. After recuperating for a few minutes, she glared at Naruto and exclaimed, "What the hell was that?" Naruto replied, "An insurance policy to make sure that you weren't going to lead me into a trap. Now tell me about the other guy." The first no, you didn't put your pain in this book, and that's fine with me, but I want to know about the Uchiha and the spiral mask. With wide eyes, Konan said, "So you know he's a Uchiha?" Naruto said, "I remember seeing the Sharingan when he released the Kyuubi from my mother. Now who is he?" According to Konan, his name is Madara Uchiha. Naruto said, "He's..." As his eyes widened, Konan replied, "I know what you're going to say about him being dead, but he's not. He's still alive and is the founder of Akatsuki." After taking a seat, Naruto said, "Tell me everything." After giving a nod, Konan started sharing all of her knowledge about Madara. "Why are you really here? I mean, why are you here?" asked Naruto after she was done. Konan sighed and said, "Madara has taken his secret identity as Tobi and used it to join into Akatsuki. He killed Deidara and is currently working with Akasuna no Sasori in tracking down Orochimaru to find out if he was the reason the world know about us. Once he finds out he's going to come looking at the other members of Akatsuki. It won't take long before he finds out about me, so Pain thought it was best if I become a traitor to Akatsuki in order to draw attention away from him, in order to allow him to continue to slow them, giving you more time, as well as me making sure that you are indeed getting stronger and that the rumors about you are true. Where are we?" "The home of the Uzumaki clan Whirlpool," Naruto uttered. When Jiraiya and Tsunade entered his office, the Raikage arched an eyebrow and remarked, "I'm surprised to see you both so soon. I take it that you haven't found him." Jiraiya replied, "No, we went to Suna and informed the Cage about all the information we had on Akatsuki and on Naruto, but he has not seen or heard about him being in Suna yet, but he has his men on a lookout for him. I also contacted some of my spies and tried to find out anything new, but no sightings of him have been reported." As the Raikage opened his mouth to speak, B entered his office, followed by Kurai, Samui, Omoi, and Yugito. "How many times have I told you to knock before entering my office, B?" the Raikage asked, raising an eyebrow. B replied, "More times than I would want to listen. You should learn everyone turns you out when you start bitchin'." After noticing Jiraiya and Tsunade, B looked around the room and said, "Yo hippies, you missed Uzumaki." The Raikage's eyebrow twitched. With a twitchy eyebrow, Tsunade asked, "What did you call us?" "Hippies," B said. "You're a flower child, the granddaughter of Shodaims, a medic, and a love machine who enjoys free and peaceful love while being a super pervert and wise, not to mention that you are both from Konoha and are tree huggers." Bam! A crash. After Tsunade struck B, he went through a wall, and the Raikage remarked, "Thank you, I was just about to do that myself to shut him the hell up." "Pardon me, Raikage-sama, but there are some things you should know that happened on our training trip," Yugito said, bowing. "We have fresh information about Akatsuki." The Raikage questioned, "What do you mean?" as everyone's eyes widened. The secretary said, "I'll call the usual contractors to come repair your office again, Raikage-sama." As B returned through the wall hole, "Would you please try self-control? You're spending more than you have each month on damaged walls." Yugito said, "Uzumaki seduced a female member of the Akatsuki who has been giving him information on them." As the Raikage's eyebrow twitched after their most recent meeting, she put a tracking seal on him and followed him to where we were. "Where is Naruto?" Jiraiya asked as everyone's eyes widened. "I'm surprised you told about her and Uzumaki, kitten." B scowled, "Particularly after he charmed you and you fell in love." "Exactly where were Uzumaki and you when this woman found him?" the Raikage asked, squinting his eyebrow. "That place," B said. "What was Uzumaki doing there?" the Raikage asked, raising an eyebrow as he slammed his fist into his desk. "I took him there to learn how to use the Kyuubi powers, but his Jinchuriki power activated," B said, crossing his arms. "The ability to see his impending death is his Jinchuriki power. He realized he would die if he tried the training I wanted him to do. At this moment we worked together to strengthen each other since the children and kitten arrived soon after. He taught us some of his techniques, such as Kagebunshin no Jutsu, various chakra control exercises, and elemental manipulation. I also taught him Kenjutsu, lightning manipulation, and how to improve his taijutsu. During that period, Uzumaki charmed all three of the women present." Before he was slammed to the ground by Tsunade's fist, Jiraiya gave a perverted giggle and pulled out a notebook. After the Raikage slapped his forehead, the girls' faces were flushed. The Raikage turned to B and said, Give me one reason I shouldn't have you locked away in the deepest prison cell we have B for not only taking an outsider to one of Kumo's most secret training locations in. It's not really that big of a secret if you're talking about your Turtle Island, Jiraiya said. Since Whirlpool's demise, we have been aware of that location. We learned about it after attempting to locate any Uzumaki survivors or their knowledge. How many people know about it? The Raikage asked, his eyes widening for a moment before he sagged back in his chair. Tsunade, me, the Sandaime, and the elders, Jiraiya uttered. Because it is in the Hokage files, only members of Konoha's S-rank division can access it. According to the Raikage, I trust that you won't reveal this info to anyone else. All we want is our grandson, Jiraiya stated. Regardless of the price, it's okay if keeping your secret benefits us. The Raikage nods and turns to face B, who says, you ask why you shouldn't lock me up for helping to train Uzumaki, as he takes out the book Conan gave him. Since Uzumaki's spy gave us this book, it contains detailed information about almost every member of Akatsuki, including their partners, strengths, weaknesses, and base locations where they extract the Biju. It also includes the names of several Akatsuki spies and supporters, a description of how they plan to extract the Biju, how they select members, and other potentially useful information, such as targets they are pursuing outside of Jinchuriki in order to weaken the ninja villages when they attempt to capture us. We only have this information because of Uzumaki's assistance. The eyes of Jiraiya, Tsunade, and the Raikage widened as they examined the book. The Raikage then asked, how certain are you that the information in that book is accurate? It might be a ruse to divert our attention from the actual danger. I also considered that, but it would be very simple to determine whether it is true. B stated. To do this, we simply need to send some of our men to the bases here in the Land of Lightning and inquire about the identities of the locals. We have a wealth of information about an enemy that we could use to degrade or eliminate them. If that information proves to be accurate, you have a choice, but you can either accept this and view Uzumaki as Kumo's ally. The Raikage narrowed his eyes and said, or what? According to B, or you can kill me. I see Uzumaki as a brother, B said as everyone's eyes widened. Just as I'll fight to keep him safe, I won't assist you in hurting him, and if you pursue him, I won't assist you either. Uzumaki makes me think of what his father said to us on the day we attempted to abduct his mother. The Hachibi's previous host said the same thing about me and my future with the group. Where is Uzumaki and his spy? The Raikage asked with a frown. They went out to sea, B said. I'm not sure where, but I don't think this is Uzumaki's final appearance. With a sigh, the Raikage regarded the book in B's hands before saying, Mabui, get in here. The Raikage said, use that jutsu and make 3 copies of that book B has, as the Raikage secretary entered. Hi Raikage-sama, said Mabui. B-sama, the book. After B gave Mabui the book, she placed it on the table, started making hand signals, and said, duplication no jutsu. When the smoke cloud cleared, 3 books were stacked there. The Raikage grabbed one of the books and tossed it to Jiraiya, saying, consider that a sign of friendship in honor of our deal. Jiraiya replied, thank you Raikage-sama, and I'll look into this info and see if I can verify any of it as the info on Naruto's spy in this book. No, Conan said. She wouldn't put her, Yugito replied. Conan, Jiraiya said, her eyes wide with narrowed eyes. The Raikage uttered, something wrong Jiraiya? I'm not sure. Jiraiya scowled. I stayed with a few war orphans I met during the Second World War and taught them self-defense and survival skills. I was surprised to hear someone else with her name, even though I had heard that they had all passed away years ago. How did she look? Yugito replied, bluish-purple hair with a paper flower in her hair end. After gasping, Jiraiya exclaimed, it can't be. She's supposed to have died fighting Hanzo. According to the Raikage, so she was your student? B stated. Conan informed us that Akatsuki was not initially a group established to apprehend the Biju before someone she refers to as the founder joined them. It was a resistance group that sought to overthrow a tyrant, which they succeeded in doing. Following their success, this founder man murdered every Akatsuki member save the original founders and made them join him in becoming what they are today. Although she did a good job of hiding it, she seemed afraid of this founder guy. The Raikage swiftly skimmed the book and remarked, there is nothing in this book about the founder guy. Yugito remarked, she informed us that he wasn't present because the man is extremely dangerous and hides in the shadows, more hazardous than she actually was. It was said by the Raikage, and you didn't try to capture her? B remarked, I told her not to because she was a spy for Uzumaki, as Yugito bit her lip. In addition to being the weakest member of the Akatsuki, she is an S-rank kunoichi and was more valuable when she was free and telling Uzumaki about things than when we captured and interrogated her. If she wanted to catch Jinchuriki, she would need to be. You said you trained her and others died fighting Hanzo, the Raikage said, turning to Jiraiya. The tyrant she was fighting was vanquished. She informed B, do you have any updates regarding Hanzo's potential death or the regime change in AIM? No, Jiraiya said, since the last major shinobi conflict, AIM borders have been sealed off. I've killed every spy I sent there according to all the information coming out of AIM. The war is still ongoing there. According to the Reikage, apparently not the Akatsuki are in AIM, it seems. Or using them, Tsunade said. Under this founder guy, Akatsuki might have a puppet leader in place, and they could use them to finance their activities. I can understand your point of view, but are you really prepared to expend resources on a potential attack on AIM only to discover that the Akatsuki are merely using AIM as a ruse to conceal their true location? It might be a trap as well. For the time being, the Reikage said you have until the Chunin exams to track down your grandson and his spy and discover Akatsuki's relationship with AIM. Here, B will train his group before sending them to Konoha to take the tests. Any AIM nins taking the exams will be apprehended and interrogated, and if they discover any information that leads me to suspect that the Akatsuki are in AIM, I will reveal your affiliation with the Akatsuki Jiraiya leaders and use it to bring the other countries together against both AIM and Konoha. Jiraiya said, I see. Then in that case I guess we should leave, as everyone's eyes widened. The Chunin exams, Jiraiya, the Reikage said in a foreboding manner. I'll have my spy network concentrate on everything we know, Jiraiya declared. I've survived 2 wars, I'd rather not see another. Then leave us, the Reikage said. I must communicate with my subordinates and remind them of their obligations as Kumo ninjas. As Tsunade and Jiraiya hurried away, the Reikage's expression made all of the Kumo nin swallow. Tsunade said, what should we do, Jiraiya? After leaving the office right now, we have no idea where to look. No, B gave us a general idea to start looking, Jiraiya said. When leaving Kumo for the sea, there aren't many locations that can be reached. Come on, let's go. Tsunade nods, and they both hurried off. When Tsunade and Jiraiya were strolling through Wave Country's woods 2 months later, Tsunade exclaimed, damn it, Jiraiya, we haven't discovered any hint as to his possible location. We might never find him, I'm beginning to think. I know this is making Tsunade sad, but we can't give up, Jiraiya said. Do you feel that way? We have to, as long as there is a chance. After a brief moment of blinking and staring at Jiraiya, Tsunade heard an explosion, and both of their eyes widened before they took off in the direction of the sound. The sound of fighting could be heard as they approached. As they landed on a tree branch, Sannin looked at one another and braced themselves for the worst. Sannin recognized 3 Konoha genin, an elderly man, and a Junin standing on the ground. Kakashi, and that's, Jiraiya said. Zabuza Momochi, but I don't see any sign of an explosion, Tsunade remarked. Before something flew through the woods and skidded across the ground, kicking up dirt, there was another explosion at that precise moment. Everyone stiffened, and Kisame Hoshigaki was holding his ribs when the dust settled. With a snarl, Zabuza uttered, Kisame. Kisame looked up and replied, well, if it isn't the baby demon, sorry, but I got bigger demons to deal with than you. At that moment, there was another explosion, and a second figure sprang into the field, kicking up dust. After the dust settled, Itachi Uchiha was standing there when there was a dazzling burst of light and a loud explosion. Itachi was then hurled backwards into Kisame, causing both of them to topple over multiple times. When they were able to see again, Naruto stood there brandishing a sword and uttered the words, still think I am no match for you. Everyone had to cover their eyes because they were seeing spots. Near Naruto, a whirl of paper appeared, and Konan looked exhausted. Kisame said, hello traitor. Konan stated, Akatsuki is made up of traitors. Of course I had to become a traitor in order to qualify like the rest of you. Leader Sama has ordered, Itachi said. When Sasuke attempted to approach Itachi after screaming, Itachi, a black-haired genin grabbed him. Naruto looked at him and said, Great Hitaki Kakashi, Zabuza Momochi, Sasuke Uchiha, a hunter nin, and 2 of the Sannin's things keep getting better and better. Itachi remarked, it looks like we need to retreat. Kisame, we are, as everyone's eyes widened and they looked around. There was another explosion sound and another blinding flash. Naruto was standing over the headless bodies of 2 people. When everyone could see him again, no one recognized him, and Konan remarked, it looks like they used that jutsu I informed you about, Naruto. It seems so, and now Akatsuki know about my thunderstep. I don't know what the hell you're doing here, Zabuza, but you should surrender. You're surrounded and there is a mist hunter nin in the trees who could just kill you if you don't. Your choice, Naruto said, scowling and wiping the blood from his sword before slipping it over his shoulder. With a growl, Zabuza declared, this isn't over. He then sounded off, and the hunter nin vanished as well. With a stutter, Sakura said, Naruto, is that you? After giving her a quick glance, Naruto said, Hello Sakura-chan, as beautiful as ever. I see. Hello Sanins. When Jiraiya and Tsunade both leapt into the clearing, Jiraiya exclaimed, hello Gaki. A second flash and boom were heard and seen, and Jiraiya was flung back through a number of trees. Naruto said, that was for being a failure as a godfather. You may not have known you were my grandfather, but you knew you were my godfather and chose to ignore me. Everyone was shocked to see Naruto standing where Jiraiya had been. Picking himself up, Jiraiya winced and uttered, damn Gaki. That punch is almost as strong as Tsunade. What the hell was that you just did? Naruto replied, I have no reason to tell you anything. What the hell are you all doing here? Did Konoha send the Sanins to protect its precious Uchiha? Tsunade replied, no, Jiraiya and I have been trying to track you down and have been searching all the islands that could be reached from where you ran and Konan met up after we were informed from B. I see. Then how did you meet up with them? Naruto gestured to Team 7 while biting his lip. Kakashi stated, we are on a C-rank mission to protect Tazuna here. I didn't even know Jiraiya-sama and Tsunade-sama was here. Naruto. Jiraiya replied, we heard an explosion and came to investigate, and we came across the battle here when Kisame was knocked into the clearing. After giving Konan a quick glance and nodding, Naruto asked, did you get everything? Konan replied, yes, I've taken all of Gato documents and his funds after you killed him and distracted Itachi and Kisame with Gato dead and all his funds now in our hands. Akatsuki will have a harder time operating now. With a stutter, Tazuna said, you killed Gato. I hope you weren't business partners with him. If so, I hate to tell you, but Gato shipping has gone under 6 feet under, if you know what I mean, Naruto said after giving Tazuna a quick glance. Tazuna replied, are you kidding? Gato was a plague on this country. He was the one who hired that Zabuza guy to kill me because of my bridge I'm building to free wave country from his control. You freed us. What's your name, kid? Before he collapsed to the ground, Naruto uttered, Naruto Uzumaki. Konan, I hate to say it, but could you look after my body? When everyone hurried to encircle Naruto, there were multiple cries of, Naruto. Tsunade hurried over to him and scowled, saying, Jiraiya, give me a water jutsu. I can't check his condition because his entire body is covered with dust. Sakura replied, dust? When was the last time the Baka took a bath? Konan replied, you're a disgrace to Kunoichi. Everywhere Pinky. Naruto covered in dust because he uses it as a sand armor similar to the Ichibi Jinchuriki with sand. Sasuke replied, so what kind of protection can dust or sand give someone? Jiraiya replied, a lot actually, depending on how compressed it is or how much it is. Konan replied, not to mention that dust isn't normal dust. What do you mean his dust isn't normal dust, and who are you? Asked Kakashi, who had covered up his Sharingan. As the water jutsu hardly moved any dust, Jiraiya remarked, her name's Konan. That's all you need to know about her. Kakashi, what the hell? According to Konan, Naruto has taken the knowledge of dust element and expanded on it, creating his own element, the iron dust element. When Tsunade finished, there was a 2-foot wide ball, and Jiraiya had taken out a scroll, saying, place it here. I'll seal it away for the Gaki for later. Everyone's eyes widened, and Tsunade scowled before flashing through hand signs and holding her hand over Naruto's body. The iron dust started to fly off his body into Tsunade's hand. How did you do that, Tsunade-sama? Asked the black-haired boy with Sakura and Sasuke, grinning at her as she glanced over Naruto. I'm sorry, kid, Tsunade said. I refuse to divulge any information that might be used against my grandson, particularly a root. While Jiraiya remarked, Tsunade and I have both been around long enough to spot one of Danzo men a mile away. Kid, Sasuke, Sakura, and Tazuna appeared perplexed. You are too young for us. What's your name and why are you here? My name is Sai, and I am here to be a third member of Team 7 under Hitaki. Kakashi, the boy with the black hair, said. Right, kid, Tsunade said with a snort. Naruto appears to have multiple ripped muscles, muscle strain, and Charka exhaustion. Is there a location nearby where we can take him to recuperate? He can stay at my place, Tazuna said. Anyone who saves Wave is welcome to stay at my family's inn. Simply follow me. Tsunade grabbed Naruto's body as Konan reached for him, saying, no offense, girl, but I don't trust you. Very good, Konan said. However, I won't abandon him. Tsunade gave Konan a fierce look, but he ignored her. After everyone arrived at Tazuna's house, he promptly told his family what had happened. Naruto was then put in a room, and it appeared that everyone wanted to be there with him. Kakashi, you and your team continue your mission. Tsunade snarled. Myself and Jiraiya will update you. Come on, right, Tsunade-sama, said Kakashi following the door's closure. Jiraiya used a privacy jutsu before turning to greet Konan. With a neutral tone, Konan said, hello Jiraiya-sensei. I thought you were dead. Jiraiya said. Are the others still alive? Until Naruto wakes up, I won't say anything. Conan stated. He can decide whether or not to respond to your inquiries. Tsunade replied, and what if Jiraiya and I force you to tell us or kill you? Conan replied, would you really kill someone who might be carrying your great-grandchild? Tsunade said, you're pregnant, as Jiraiya's and Tsunade's eyes widened. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not, Conan said. I won't tell you, and I won't allow you to look at my body. Besides, you shouldn't be wondering about just me. Jiraiya replied, the three Kumo Kunoichis and the Nidaim's granddaughter, right? According to Conan, among others, Tsunade pressed her lips together and said, Jiraiya, just let it go. Obviously, until the Gaki awakens, there is nothing we can do. Jiraiya scowled and remarked, all right, but I'm happy to see you're still alive. Conan, I heard that you and the others had passed away, but I would have returned for you if I had known you were still alive. If Danzo had his way, I would have. Conan scowled. We attempted to reconcile with Hanzo, but he sided with Danzo, who took me hostage and attempted to murder the others. I will not tell you anymore. Leave me alone now. Jiraiya looked down, scowled, and said, I see. Everybody looked at Naruto in the hopes that he would heal quickly. When Naruto opened his eyes and realized he was in a room he did not recognize, 4 days had passed. He looked around and saw Conan dozing off in the corner nearest the bed. Naruto sat up and glanced around. Before spotting his clothes on the dresser, he hurried over to them and dressed as stealthily as he could before moving to stand next to Conan and covering her mouth with his hand while tapping her shoulder. Before she realized, it was Naruto who had woken her up and saw him use his free hand to gesture to his mouth in a sign to be quiet. Conan was startled awake and began to reach for a kunai. After nodding, Naruto moved his hands back, and Conan looked around while gesturing with her hand out the window. After giving a nod, Naruto vanished a short while later, leaving him in a swirl of water and her in a swirl of paper. After emerging in the forest, Naruto surveyed the area and remarked, I don't sense anyone. According to Conan, I don't either. Where are we and how long was I out? Asked Naruto what transpired after I fainted. You wouldn't have passed out if you had listened to my warning about Samahada and its ability to eat chakra, Conan said, giving Naruto a fierce look. With a sigh, Naruto said, I understand. I am aware I was a fool. I'm glad we agree, Conan said. In any case, we can talk about the specifics of your stupidity later. We have to decide what to do right now. 4 days have passed. The Uchiha and the pink-haired girl were on that team with a root member. He tried to kill me with his ink drawings and relayed the news to Danzo. Now that he is imprisoned in the basement, Jiraiya-sensei is attempting to break the seal on his tongue while Tsunade ensures that he survives and does not commit suicide. They're looking for answers. I had to inform Tsunade that your dust was iron dust so she could examine you and make sure you were okay. She removed the iron dust from you as soon as I said that, and Jiraiya-sensei had it sealed away in a scroll, so I believe she had previously come into contact with the Sandame Cage iron sand. With a frown, Naruto uttered, I see. Anything else? The pink-haired girl and the Uchiha are both idiots, Conan said, and Tsunade and Jiraiya threatened to kill me or interfere until I asked them if they would risk the lives of someone who might be carrying their unborn great-grandchild. She trailed off and started to look around before saying, after that, they have decided to sit back and wait on you too. With narrowed eyes, Naruto uttered, I sense them also. You shouldn't be running around, Naruto, Tsunade and Jiraiya said as they emerged in a whirl of leaves across from Naruto and Conan. A short while later, as she began to approach him, she said, your body is still healing from your injuries and chakra exhaustion. My dust, Naruto said, taking a step back and extending his hand while maintaining his distance. Tsunade and Jiraiya both anticipated seeing this, but Jiraiya took out a scroll and opened a large ball of dust. After making a hand seal, the dust started to move, fly into the air, cover Naruto's body, and then take on the appearance of his regular clothes. Naruto took a deep breath and asked, what is it you both want with me? Tsunade stepped forward and stated, until it was mentioned in the bingo book, we were unaware that your father was our child. Jiraiya came looking for me because the only time we were together, I had lied the following day because I had disappeared. By the time he woke up, he thought it had been a dream and that I had been hurt and put in a coma at the hospital without realizing I was pregnant. I knew that already, Naruto remarked. I am aware that you were unaware of me, but Jiraiya was aware that he was my godfather but not my grandfather. Jiraiya, I would like to know why you are both searching for me right now while remaining silent. I would probably want to harm you if you said anything. After calming down, Tsunade said, I'm trying to find answers about why our son was taken from me and try to get a chance to know and be in the life of my grandson. She had been biting her lip to contain her laughter. The Sandame, Naruto snorted. Although he was the driving force behind it, he was able to deflect the blame by placing it on others, giving the impression that he was only marginally involved. Since she was the Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi, he might attempt to claim that your grandmother was a part of some covert alliance between Whirlpool and Konoha, or that she was protecting the child from your enemies, or 100 other things. According to my information, Sandame had his wife deliver Dad as if she had been present on the day I was born in order to assist in delivering me, but you will probably never know the full truth. As much as I hate to say it, he is still a strong fighter at his age and could assist the mastermind behind the Akatsuki. You both know about them, so if you want retribution, wait. Yes, Tsunade replied. A copy of the book Conan gave him was given to us by B. They also contain the information from the bingo books. Good, Naruto said. When I have more important things to do, like tend to our little spy, I would hate to have to explain everything about them. Hello Hunter Nin, or should I say fake Hunter Nin, Naruto said as he heard a second Naruto emerge from the woods with a girl wearing a dress with a flower pattern. I wouldn't give it a shot. A chakra disruption seal was applied to you by my clone. You will be rendered unconscious if you attempt to use your chakra. I don't know what you're talking about, the girl said with a frown. All I'm trying to do is collect some herbs so I can make some medicine. I've been training with a lot of different people in different lands, girl, Naruto remarked. I am able to recognize the primary elements and chakra signatures of someone who is actively using chakra. Since I can sense some of Zabuza's chakra on you, which indicates that you've been close to him for a long time, you seem to me to be going off like an exploding tag right now. Given that your chakra signature matches the one I found when I battled Kisame and Itachi, the fact that you have spent enough time in his presence to be covered in his runoff signature can only indicate that you are not a true Hunter Nin. You are either an apprentice or a Zabuza partner. Now, tell me your name and what you're doing here. My name is Haku, and that's all I'll say, the girl said with a frown. I refuse to turn on Zabuza-sama. All right, said Naruto, Gato is dead, so you don't need to pursue Tazuna anymore. Inform Zabuza that I would like to work out a deal with him. If Gato has information about the walking can of tuna, I would be willing to pay for it because I have all of his money and records when he was fighting Kakashi tomorrow at noon. I understand. How do I know this isn't a trap? Asked Haku. I think you may have recently read the bingo book, Naruto remarked. Naruto Uzumaki was one of the names heard about me. Naruto remarked. Ah good, I see that my reputation precedes me, as Haku's eyes widened and she stepped back. Don't you think it would be simple for me to lure you into betraying Zabuza if this were some sort of trap using my reputation? I might be willing to give you a massage to help you relax if Zabuza agrees to meet, so please be a good girl and deliver the message for me. Being around a missing nin must be extremely stressful for a stunning young lady like you. Always keeping an eye on his back and over your shoulder. Constantly moving. There isn't much time for you and your needs. Don't deny it, please. I understand your frustration. Your muscles are begging for a massage, a hot spring, or a relaxing soak in a hot bubble bath. You need to unwind, read a good book, or have a nice meal sometime because you can feel the cramping in your legs. Even if you decline my offer, take an hour to reflect on who you are and what you want. Don't you deserve it? She said in a gentle, kind tone. Naruto remarked. Come on, just say it here, as Haku appeared anxious. You won't be heard by Zabuza. Simply acknowledge that you deserve to have an hour to yourself. Do it for Zabuza, if not for yourself. You see him as your boss, after all, since you call him Sama. People you may be meeting with may believe you are attempting to attack. If your body twitches at the wrong time due to stress, in that case, they may attack Zabuza and you, possibly injuring you both, or, in the worst case scenario, killing you both. Just consider how it would make you feel if you killed your master because your body was overprepared for battle due to stress. Just consider it for yourself, even if you don't trust me due to my reputation. After taking a deep breath, Haku turned his attention from Naruto to the other three who remained motionless. Naruto responded. They won't move. To keep them there until you leave. I've sealed them. If they consider you an enemy, I don't care. You are not my enemy, and you have not attacked me. Simply put, I dislike being spied on. As the clone behind her crumbled into dust, she said, you can leave now. That's it. You're not going to try and follow me to Zabuza or attack me when my back is turned, Haku said, her eyes widening. Nope, Naruto said. Take your shushin on a crazy goose chase around the island, just like you did the other day. Even without Zabuza, I have other ways to obtain the information that I might need to kill Kisame. Not everything is a fight of life and death. He approached a tree, knelt next to it, picked up a lily, and said, sometime you have to just stop. He put the lily to his nose to smell it before approaching Haku and slipping it behind her ear. Have a good day, Haku-chan. He turned and began to leave. She blushed a little, and Haku bit her lip before saying, wait, how about a deal? Glancing back at her, Naruto uttered the words, like. With all the information Zabuza is willing to sell on Kisame, I'll meet you there by myself tomorrow. Haku stated you give me $2 million in return. You could just tell me that Kisame uses Suiden and Kenjutsu and get away with it. Naruto remarked I'll make you a counter-offer $5,000 to arrive and an additional $5,000 to depart between those 2 times. I'll give you an extra $1,000 for each minute we spend discussing Kisame. I'll double those sums if Zabuza shows up. Deal? Deal, Haku said. All right, then, Haku-chan, it's a date. Naruto said I hope to see you shortly. Before dust started to fly from their bodies and each of them sagged forward slightly before catching themselves, Haku flushed and shivered away, and Naruto turned back to the other 3. With a growl, Tsunade exclaimed, "What the hell was that?" Says Naruto. Negotiations. What the hell gave you the right to seal us like that? Tsunade scowled. What if you had been attacked by her? I put an exploding tag seal on her, and it would have activated and killed her. Naruto stated I now know how to apply my iron dust to distant objects and people to make seals prisoners or immobilized by the ones I used on you 3. Jiraiya replied, not a bad idea, but the problem is that an enemy ninja won't just sit there and let you work on making a seal with your dust on them all the time. In addition to my iron dust release, I possess other abilities. Naruto stated I am a multi-talented individual. Regarding the route, what have you done? He's currently under Kakashi watch. Tsunade stated we had Kakashi watch him, and as soon as we noticed that you and Konan were going missing, we started to follow you. Naruto replied, have you found any information about Akatsuki besides what has been listed in the bingo books or in the book we gave B? Just verifying some of the information in that book, Jiraiya said. At the Chunin exams, where B's team was scheduled to compete, the Raikage instructed us to either locate you and set up a meeting with you and Konan, or else fail. He claimed that in order to determine whether Hanzo is still in command or whether Akatsuki are stationed there, his people would apprehend every AIM ninja he's going to declare war on AIM if they are. When are the Chunin exams and where are they being held at? Naruto asked, scowling as he looked at Konan, who had a neutral expression on his face. In Konoha in less than 3 months, Jiraiya stated. The first day of summer. Is Hanzo no longer alive? Does Akatsuki reside in AIM? It doesn't matter if Hanzo is dead or not, or if Akatsuki are in AIM or not, Naruto said, his face turning neutral. The larger nations fight in the smaller nations and then return to their own country, leaving the smaller nations to deal with the death, destruction, and devastation. Dealing with the members themselves is the issue. The majority are missing ninjas who were once part of bigger countries but have done a terrible job of cleaning up their mess. All agree to is to meet with the Raikage at that time. Tsunade asked, what are your plans now that Gato dead? As Jiraiya's and Tsunade's eyes widened a little. We have been working on trying to lure the Akatsuki out of hiding by hurting them where it counts, Naruto said, glancing up at the sky. Their wallets Itachi and Kisame were protecting Gato because Konan and I had been eliminating the Akatsuki's financial backers for the past month. Akatsuki will need to come out in the open to gather resources after Gato and the others we removed died. I'll have a better chance of getting stronger because of this. My abilities have been observed by Itachi and Kisame, who have probably reported them. That move you used to do at high speeds still requires a lot of work, Tsunade remarked. It seriously injured your body. It's not the actual thunderstep that needs the work, scowled Naruto. The issue is that when I first appear, I have to quickly rotate my body to take advantage of my unexpected appearance against my adversaries. My natural reaction time isn't that fast, so I have to use lightning chakra to speed it up, which makes my muscles rip and strain. You are aware that both Tsunade and I are prepared to assist you with your training, Jiraiya said. After all, we belong to Sannin. He looked bored and replied, you think I should respect you because an old man felt you sucked so bad he had to give you a new name to be recognized by for people to remember your level of suckiness. Enough Naruto, Tsunade said as Jiraiya's eyebrow fluttered and he opened his mouth. I understand that you and I are both furious with Jiraiya for failing to fulfill his role as your godfather, but the pervert does have a valid point. Since Kisame and Itachi now know your level and skill set, the other members of Akatsuki probably do as well. Since you stated that you would encounter the Raikage during the Chunin exams in 3 months, why don't we at least assist you with your training for that duration and then proceed from there? With a scowl, Naruto turned to face Konan and uttered, all right, I'll give you a chance. Oh, any chance. But not here. Know that I don't trust Konoha or Root. I'll hold you accountable if you violate my confidence or harm someone I'm watching over, even if I die as a result. A few minutes of silence fell over the clearing before Konan uttered the words, so then where are we going to train at?
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.